Chapter 859. She had to marry even if she didn't want to. The housekeeper, Nanny Lu, spent most of her time with Guan Xian and Guan Xuemin. Even though she was close to Guan Xiaoxiang when he was younger, they were still distant now. She turned a blind eye to Guan Xian's eavesdropping. When Guan Xian heard Kang Mingming tell her father that he wanted to be friends with her, her heart skipped a beat. She was afraid that her father would mistake Kang Mingming for a handsome young man and agree to date her. Fortunately, her father was wise enough to reject Kang Mingming. But her father's reason was so strange. He said that she had a fiancé, and that they were betrothed before they were born. Was there still such a thing as a prenatal betrothal in today's society? Wasn't this too strange? She didn't expect her father, who looked so old-fashioned, to have such a clever and eccentric side. Guan Xian thought it was funny. However, what made her happiest was that Kang Xiaoming actually believed her father's words and decided to give up on pursuing her. What an idiot! In fact, Guan Xian was wrong. In a big family like Kang Mingming, it was natural for the parents to make the decision. Just like the marriage between her brother and the Xiao family's Wang Xinyan, it was decided by the elders. Once it was decided, the younger generation couldn't change it. So Kang Mingming thought that Guan Xian was the same. So no matter what he did, he couldn't change it. He could only give up. When she heard that Kang Xiaoming was coming out, Guan Xian quickly sat on the sofa and pretended to watch TV as if nothing had happened. Kang Xiaoming opened the study room door and was pushed out by Wang Shubin. He looked at Guan Xian, who was sitting on the sofa watching TV, and sighed helplessly. He knew that Guan Xian was a girl from a wealthy family. Since she was already engaged, how could she still be friends with him? So he didn't even bother to say anything. To him, if he couldn't get a girl, it didn't matter how pretty she was. So he asked Wang Shubin to push him out of Guan Xuemin's mansion and left the place with his tail between his legs. Guan Xian, on the other hand, blushed when she saw her father walk out of the study. She had eavesdropped on his conversation with Kang Mingming after all. It wasn't a big deal, but it wasn't something to be proud of. Guan Xian felt a little embarrassed when she saw her father looking at her. She hadn't done anything bad, so she took the initiative to admit what she'd done. Dad, that Kang Mingming was lying. I didn't nurse him. Oh? Did you hear everything? Guan Xiaoxiang didn't expect his daughter to eavesdrop. Seeing her blushing face, he nodded in understanding. This person doesn't look like a good person. Don't come into contact with him in the future. I know, I don't even talk to him. Guan Xian said. He's the one who keeps pestering me, and that Lin Yi, you need to stay away from him in the future. Don't get too close to him. You are a girl, you need to take care of your reputation. Guan Xiaoxiang thought of Lin Yi and added. He had always been biased against Lin Yi. Ever since Lin Yi and Guan Xuemin formed the company, Guan Xiaoxiang hated Lin Yi a little. Lin Yi is a good person, he's not a bad person. He's different from Kang Mingming. Guan Xian froze and shook her head. She didn't understand why her father wouldn't let go of Lin Yi. I told you, you are a girl, you need to watch your image. Guan Xiaoxiang said seriously. Plus, you have an engagement. If any rumors spread, it won't be good for your reputation. It was the first time Guan Xiaoxiang used such a strict and unquestionable tone to talk to Guan Xian. Guan Xian froze and looked at Guan Xiaoxiang suspiciously. Dad, what engagement are you talking about? Isn't that an excuse to trick Kang Mingming into giving up? How did I get engaged? That's not an excuse. Guan Xiaoxiang waved his hand. Xian, you're not young anymore. It's time to tell you about this. Actually, before you were born, your mom and I had arranged a marriage for you. Now that you're all grown up, it's fine to tell you about this. How can I do that? Guan Xian didn't know what to do after listening to her father's words. The news was too shocking for her. She never thought that she was already engaged, and now she had a fiancé out of nowhere. Why not? It's always been like this since ancient times. Guan Xiaoxiang didn't think that his usually docile daughter would question him. His brows furrowed even deeper. Could there really be something going on between his daughter and that Lin Yi? Dad, what era is this? Why do we have to arrange a marriage? I've never even met the person you're talking about, how can I marry him? Plus, it's been so many years, how can it still count? Can you reject it for me? Guan Xian couldn't believe it. She couldn't accept it. Reject what? You can't reject it. Guan Xiaoxiang didn't give her any leeway. You have to marry him in the future. No one can change that. I'm not marrying him. This was the first time that Guan Xian, who had always been a good girl, vehemently refuted her father's suggestion. This was related to her lifelong happiness. How could she compromise? You have to marry him even if you don't want to. Guan Xiaoxiang snorted coldly. He was getting a little angry. I'm in charge of this. Whatever you say is useless. Why should I? I've never met him, I don't even know what he looks like or what he does. Why should I marry him? Guan Xian's eyes widened. I'm not marrying him. I don't even like him. If you don't like him, then who do you like? Guan Xiaoxiang retorted. I just don't like him. Guan Xian almost spilled the beans. She blushed and stopped herself. You like that Lin Yi, don't you? Guan Xiaoxiang, of course, knew what his daughter was thinking. You should cut all ties with him as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'll find someone to break his legs. Your mother and I agreed on your marriage. I owe him a lot. My career today was all given to me by his elders. I, Guan Xiaoxiang, am not someone who goes back on his word. It's good if you thought it through. Even if you don't, you still have to marry him. With that, Guan Xiaoxiang ignored Guan Xian. He stood up and strode out of the villa. Chapter 860. Guan Xueming, but Guan Xian was afraid that her father would do something to hurt Lin Yi in a fit of rage. She didn't know what to do. Lin Yi had nothing to do with this, but he was dragged into this. Guan Xueming heard the argument downstairs and came downstairs to see Guan Xian crying on the sofa. He paused for a moment before asking, Xian, what's wrong? Why are you crying here? Where's your dad? Grandpa. Guan Xian cried even more fiercely when she saw her grandpa. She'd never felt so wronged before. She couldn't understand how her father could interfere with her marriage. Forcing her to marry someone she didn't even know? All right, don't cry. Tell Grandpa what happened first. Is there anything you can't solve? Why are you crying so hard? Guan Xueming didn't know what was wrong with Guan Xian. He sat on the sofa and patted his granddaughter's shoulder. Grandpa, my dad said that he'd arranged for me to marry someone I've never met before. Guan Xian told her grandpa what had happened. Nonsense. Guan Xueming slammed the table. This Guan Xiaoxiang is getting more and more unruly. How can he just decide something like this? Don't worry, Xian, Grandpa will help you. Without me, no one will be able to do anything. I'll call your dad right now. Guan Xueming was furious as well. He was an upright man, but he wasn't one to be inflexible. So when he heard that Guan Xiaoxiang was going to arrange for Guan Xian's marriage, he was furious. Plus, his grandson-in-law was Lin Yi, so he couldn't just let Guan Xiaoxiang marry Guan Xian off. You little bastard, what did you say to Xian? You made my precious granddaughter cry? What's wrong with you, kid? Arranged marriage? I'm telling you, you'd better cancel this engagement as soon as possible. Don't even think about it. Guan Xueming dialed the number and started scolding him. Guan Xiaoxiang froze. His dad hadn't yelled at him like this ever since they'd gotten into a conflict over him starting a company. This made him feel like he had done something wrong when he was young and was scolded by his father. He didn't dare to disobey his father, however, he really couldn't make the decision for the matter that his father mentioned. This was the marriage agreement that he and his wife had made with that nobleman. How could he unilaterally renege on it? Thinking about how much that person had done for him in the past, how great of a favor was that person? If it weren't for his investment and connections, how could he have achieved the results he had today? Can I get the approval of my future father-in-law? He was not an ungrateful person, so for a moment, Guan Shaoxiang was in a dilemma. Guan Shaoxiang had been in a cold war with his father for so many years, and he knew that the fact that his father was angry at him for Guan Xian's sake meant that their relationship had improved. If he compromised, then the relationship between father and son would definitely become better. However, could he compromise? It was impossible for him to break his promise with that person. Unless that person broke the contract, Guan Shaoxiang would never do such an ungrateful thing. Thinking of this, Guan Shaoxiang could only smile bitterly. He couldn't be loyal and righteous at the same time. What could he do? He didn't want to use this opportunity to ease his relationship with his father to anger him again, but he also couldn't break the marriage agreement. Dad, I can listen to you on other things, but this, I really can't change it. This was an agreement I made with that nobleman, and you know him. Guan Shaoxiang sighed. How can I break the marriage agreement? But have you ever thought about Xian's happiness? If that's the case, then when that person comes, let him come to me. Just say that I broke the marriage agreement. Guan Shuemin was so angry that he laughed. He helped you before, and I even helped his wife cure her leg. If he doesn't want to, then he can come to me. If you let Xian get married again, then I'll make sure that she and you are no longer father and son. I'll make her have a cold war with you, just like how you and I did back then. With that, Guan Shuemin hung up the phone with a pa sound, ignoring Guan Shaoxiang's words. Holding the phone, Guan Shaoxiang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't know what to say. His father actually used what he did back then to threaten him. However, at least his father took over the matter, and promised that if there were any problems, he would let that nobleman go to him. This lessened the pressure on Guan Shaoxiang, but he still didn't want to go back on his word. Regarding this matter, it seemed that he could only slowly convince his father. Now that his father was in a fit of anger, if he called him again to talk about this matter, it would undoubtedly make the already tense relationship between father and son even more tense. This was not what Guan Shaoxiang wanted to see. Guan Shuemin hung up the phone. On the other side, Guan Xian was also smiling through her tears. Seeing how her grandfather stood up for her, Guan Xian felt that her father would definitely compromise. Yes, if it really didn't work, then she would be like her grandfather, like her father did when he was young, and have a cold war with him. Let's see what he could do to her. If she didn't marry, even if he beat her to death, it would be useless. Xian, are you happy now? Grandpa is on your side. Don't worry, as long as Grandpa doesn't agree, no one can marry you off. Guan Shuemin could still make this decision. Thank you, Grandpa. Guan Xian smiled happily. What are you thanking me for? Okay, go wash your face, Auntie Lu is about to make dinner, let's go eat something. Guan Shuemin smiled and nodded. Guan Xian happily ran to wash her face. She didn't know that her father still hadn't given up on this matter. Kang Mingming came out of Guan Xian's house and got into the car with a bitter face. Zhu Xiaozhang, who was staying in the car, saw Kang Mingming come out with a bitter face. He was confused. Master Ming, what's wrong? What's wrong? Guan Xian's father doesn't approve of you two dating? Ah, don't mention it. It's a long story. Kang Mingming felt that his time and money were all wasted. The worst part was that he broke his leg and gave Xiaofan hundreds of thousands for nothing. What a big loss. Let me say it. Wang Shubin looked at Zhu Xiaozhang and explained, Guan Xian is already engaged to a husband, it was a marriage agreement made when she was young. This can't be changed, so Guan Xiaoxiang definitely won't let Master Ming and Guan Xian see each other. With the marriage agreement, Guan Xian can't be friends with Master Ming. For the sake of her future reputation, she can't do anything that will damage her reputation. So Guan Xiaoxiang has no chance with Guan Xian. Chapter 861. Meeting at the school gate, of course it's all wasted. Kang Ming Ming waved his hand in annoyance. It's fine if it's wasted, but the problem is, I can't get Guan Xian, and I can't get the formula. My family is really pressuring me, and my plan has failed. Kang Ming Ming was very worried that his position in the Kang family would be lost. Even if he told his family the truth, they might not blame him. After all, it wasn't that he didn't work hard, it was that he couldn't achieve it no matter how hard he tried. Guan Xian was already engaged to someone else. Even if Kang Ming Ming was the reincarnation of Panin, she wouldn't be able to break the engagement and get together with him, right? But what Kang Ming Ming was afraid of was that even though he wasn't the one responsible for this, he was still responsible for the fact that he didn't investigate thoroughly. If he had found out that Guan Xian was engaged, then he wouldn't need to spend so much effort to pursue her. Wasn't this a waste of time? As Kang Ming Ming's underling, Wang Shubin was also very worried. They were bound together for good or for ill. He understood that without the skin, where would the hair attach? If Kang Ming Ming's position in the Kang family was gone, and his prestige was gone, how could his two underlings have a good life? So it was Wang Shubin's job to solve Kang Ming Ming's problems. When he heard Guan Xiaoxiang reject Kang Ming Ming, he started to think about the next step. Master Ming, since this path is not working, then we won't go. Won't go? How am I going to explain this to my family? I said that I could definitely get Guan Xian. Kang Ming Ming said angrily, but who knew she was engaged? I can't explain this to my family, doesn't that make me look useless? Of course not. Wang Shubin waved his hand. Master Ming, if you look at it from another angle, then it'll be much easier. Actually, pursuing Guan Xian wasn't your main goal. Your main goal was to get the formula. If you hadn't pursued Guan Xian and gotten the formula, wouldn't you have completed your mission as well? I think Dr. Kang cares about the prescription, not Guan Xian. That's right. But, if I don't get Guan Xian, where am I going to get the prescription? Kang Ming Ming thought that Wang Shubing's words made sense, but he couldn't figure it out. There are many ways to get the recipe. Steal, rob, threaten, etc. We don't have to start with Guan Xian. We can still get it from other people in Miracle Dr. Guan's company. Wang Shubing said, I heard that your brother, Kang Xiaobo, is also the vice president of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company? Yeah, I get angry when I talk about this. Kang Xiaobo actually became a vice president. He's even more powerful than me. I'm so mad. He's just a relative of the Kang family, but he's doing better than me. Kang Ming Ming thought of Kang Xiaobo and felt angry. The news of Kang Xiaobo becoming the vice president of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company wasn't a secret. Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company had already announced it to the media. Master Ming, as the saying goes, when there's a war, blood brothers go to war. Wang Shubin said, think about it. You and Kang Xiaobo are cousins. Although he's the vice president of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, I don't think he's earning much money, right? I think you can go find Kang Xiaobo. After all, he's a member of the Kang family. You can reason with him, move his emotions, and promise him a lot of money. It shouldn't be hard to get the prescription from him. Kang Xiaobo knows the prescription of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? That's impossible. Although he's the vice president, this prescription should only be known by Guan Xuemin and Fatty Lai, right? Kang Ming Ming wasn't stupid. He shook his head and said, Master Ming, your priority right now isn't to find the prescription of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. That can wait. Did you forget about the new mission that Kang Xiaoang gave you? He wants you to get the prescription of Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine and the source of the raw materials. Wang Shubin said, as long as you find these two things, it'll be a great achievement. As for the prescription of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, we'll think about it slowly. Oh, that's true. The injury medicine isn't that important. Kang Xiaobo should know the prescription and the source of the raw materials. Kang Ming Ming nodded and said, if that's the case, there's a way. Tomorrow, I'll go find Kang Xiaobo and have a good talk with him. I'll get the prescription and the source of the raw materials from him. Master Ming, you have to remember two things. One is to play the family card. You have to let Khan Xiaobo know that the rise and fall of House Khan is the responsibility of every member of House Khan. You can give him some benefits. For example, after you take control of House Khan, give him some shares of Dr. Kang's medical company. Anyway, this is all nonsense. You don't know when you'll be able to take control of House Khan. Wang Shubin said, other than that, you have to give him some benefits that he can see right now. Didn't you give Xiaofan a sum of money before? You can say that you did it because of Khan Ming. This time, you have to give Khan Ming some more money. Otherwise, he won't cooperate if he can't see the benefits. Yes, what you said makes sense. Khan Ming nodded, I got it. Shubin, you really are the brains. I thought there was no other way and I was going to go home with my tail between my legs. I didn't expect you to have so many ideas. It's my responsibility to come up with ideas for Master Ming. Wang Shubin smiled proudly. The next afternoon, Khan Ming carried a black leather suitcase with 300,000 yuan and went to visit Khan Xiaobo. Khan Xiaobo would go to Dr. Kang's medical company every afternoon. He had already told his homeroom teacher, Teacher Lu. Seeing that Khan Xiaobo had such a good future, Teacher Lu naturally wouldn't stop him. What was the purpose of going to university? Wasn't it to learn some skills and get a diploma to find a good job? Now that Khan Xiaobo had passed this step and found a good job, the homeroom teacher, Teacher Lu naturally wouldn't say anything. Khan Ming already knew Khan Xiaobo's daily schedule. When Khan Xiaobo left school at noon, Khan Ming stuck his head out of the Porsche Cayenne's rear window. Bro. Here. At first, Khan Xiaobo didn't think the voice was calling him. Although it was familiar, who would come to his school and call him bro? So he didn't pay attention. However, the voice called again, Xiaobo, here. Chapter 862. The omnipresent Lini Khan Ming. What's the matter? But even so, Khan Xiaobo wasn't afraid of Khan Ming. The two of them had already fallen out on the day of the banquet. There was nothing to worry about anymore. Khan Xiaobo called Khan Ming by his name. Hey, little brother, why are you still so distant from me, your cousin? You still call me Khan Ming, you should call me second cousin. Khan Ming said with a smile. Huh? Khan Xiaobo was stunned after hearing Khan Ming's words. What did Khan Ming mean? Did he get kicked in the head by a donkey? Bro, what are you waiting for? Get in the car. We haven't seen each other in a long time, right? Khan Ming waved at Khan Xiaobo. He purposely let Zhu Xiaozhang drive. Wang Shubin sat in the front passenger seat, and left a seat for Khan Xiaobo in the back. Khan Ming, what do you want? Khan Xiaobo frowned. Long time no see? Didn't I see you giving money to Xiaofan a few days ago? Xiaobo, you're still wary of your cousin. Haha, I came here today to apologize to you. I was young and didn't know any better. I did some things that angered even the gods. I hope you can forgive me. Khan Ming said it in a nice way so that Khan Xiaobo could get close to him. At that moment, Lin and Tang Yin walked out of the school holding hands. They saw Khan Xiaobo talking to Khan Ming with a wary face. They felt it was strange and asked, Xiaobo, what are you doing? Boss. Khan Xiaobo was overjoyed when he saw Lin. He didn't know what Khan Ming was trying to do. He didn't want to talk to Khan Ming. First, how did Khan Ming treat Khan Xiaobo? How could Khan Xiaobo not hate him? Second, he used to play with Khan Xiaobo's girlfriend, Xiaofan, and hurt her. Khan Xiaobo not scolding him was already giving Khan Ming face. Khan Ming naturally didn't know that Lin was the manager of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Until now, House Khan still thought that Xiaoming was the manager of the company. As for Lin, he was just a bystander. As for Khan Xiaobo being able to enter Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, Khan Ming didn't think it was because of Lin. From his point of view, Kang Xiaobo must have given Xuemin the golden creation medicines formula in exchange for the position of vice president. In reality, Lin Yi always gave the same impression to his enemies. He was harmless, as if he was everywhere, but no one knew of his existence. So Kang Mingming didn't put Lin Yi in his eyes. He didn't care about what he said or did. He still urged, "Xiaobo, get in the car. You haven't eaten yet, right? Let's find a place to eat." "Boss, this." Kang Xiaobo was someone who listened to Lin Yi. He always followed Lin Yi's lead. If Lin Yi didn't come, he definitely wouldn't continue talking to Kang Mingming. He would have turned around and left. But now that Lin Yi was here, he needed Lin Yi to make the decision. Since Kang Mingming is treating, there's no harm in going. Let's go and have a look, Lin Yi shrugged. He wanted to see what this Kang Mingming would come up with. "Boss, will you come with me?" Kang Xiaobo hesitated and asked. "Ask your cousin if he agrees." Lin Yi asked with a smile. Kang Xiaobo and Lin Yi didn't deliberately avoid Kang Mingming when they talked, so Kang Mingming heard everything they said. Kang Mingming was anxious to find Kang Xiaobo to get the prescription. Seeing that Kang Xiaobo was very obedient to Lin Yi, he planned to invite Lin Yi along. Last time when Xiaofan took his money, Lin Yi was also present. So Kang Mingming felt that Lin Yi wasn't a righteous person. At the very least, he was greedy. So he didn't need to hide this matter from Lin Yi. As long as there were benefits, Lin Yi would let Kang Xiaobo take it. So before Kang Xiaobo asked, Kang Ming said first, "Lin Yi, right? We're friends, and we've met a few times. Let's have a meal together." Kang Mingming didn't pursue Guan Xian anymore, so his hatred for Lin Yi had faded a lot. Especially after Guan Xiaoxiang silently tricked Lin Yi last night, it let Kang Mingming breathe a sigh of relief. Now that the two of them didn't have any conflicts of interest, Kang Mingming didn't mind having Lin Yi with them. "You guys go, I won't be going." Tang Yin knew that Lin Yi had something to do, so she let go of Lin Yi's hand and said to Lin Yi, "It's okay, let's go together." Lin Yi looked at Kang Mingming and said, "Let one of your people get down and follow us in a taxi." "I have 3 people, your car won't be able to fit." Kang Mingming was so angry that his teeth itched. "Wasn't this bullying? I'm treating you guys to a meal, and you want to let my people get down?" However, he wanted to please Kang Xiaobo and get the prescription and raw materials from him. He couldn't afford to offend Lin Yi. Thus, Kang Xiaoming's expression changed again and again. He said to Wang Shubin in annoyance, "Shubin, help me sit in the front passenger seat. Then, you sit in the taxi and follow us." Kang Mingming sat in the front passenger seat, Lin Yi, Tang Yun, and Kang Xiaobo sat in the back seat of the Porsche Cayenne. Kang Mingming told Zhu Xiaozhang to find a high-class hotel, then they went into a private room. Kang Xiaobo had Lin Yi by his side, so he wasn't afraid of Kang Mingming. Since he was already here, he didn't care about Kang Mingming. However, Kang Mingming was here to please Kang Xiaobo, so he didn't mind. "Xiaobo, I heard that you are the vice president of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company?" Kang Xiaoming asked casually after Xiaobo had ordered a couple more dishes before sending the waiter away. "What's your order?" "Yes." Kang Xiaobo didn't know what Kang Mingming meant, so he answered with one sentence. Lin Yi and Tang Yun stood at the side, as if it had nothing to do with them. Lin Yi snatched the teapot that Kang Mingming was about to take and poured a cup of water for Tang Yun. "Do you want some water?" Tang Yun was a little nervous at first. She didn't like Kang Mingming. Whenever she saw him, she would think of the miserable Xiaofan, but now that Lin Yi was by her side, she felt more at ease. Tang Yun held the cup and sipped the tea. Suddenly, she realized that Lin Yi was staring at her, and her face blushed. Chapter 863. Chapter 862, Strange meal. There were no enemies or small fries, and it made Lin Yi feel that his days were very leisurely. Lin Yi didn't know if this was a good thing. Was it really peaceful, and everything was over, or was it just the calm before the storm? From the looks of it, the latter was more likely. Yu Kun was crippled by him, and it was impossible for House Yu to not do anything. Perhaps, they were planning something. As for the others, didn't Kang Ming Ming come knocking on his door? Lenny never believed that a bad person could become a good person without any signs. There was no turning point. Could it be that he had an epiphany? Kang Ming Ming was like that. His attitude changed for the better, and it made Lenny feel that he must have some ulterior motives. So, Lenny didn't put him in his eyes. He did whatever he wanted during the meal, and it made Kang Ming Ming speechless. Kang Ming Ming, who didn't manage to get the tea, could only retract his hand. His legs weren't working, and he couldn't stand up. Lenny put the teapot far away, and he couldn't reach it. Ahem, Xiaobo, you are a member of House Kang, and we are a medical family. If you want to be a vice chairman, you should come to our Dr. Kang Medical Company. Why would you go to an outsider's company? Wouldn't it be a loss of face for House Kang? Kang Xiaoming coughed twice and continued. Oh? House Kang. Kang Xiaobo smiled coldly. What do I have to do with House Kang? Other than my surname, when did you think of me? Why, are you here to arrange a vice chairman position for me in Dr. Kang Medical Company? This. Haha, not to mention a vice chairman, even a shareholder is not a problem. Kang Ming Ming laughed. Isn't Grandpa in power now? When I'm in power, I'll definitely give you a share of Dr. Kang's shares and let you become a shareholder of Dr. Kang's medical company. No matter what, you are a member of the Kang family. How could they mistreat you? Oh, I'll have to thank you then. You invited me here just for this? Xiaobo didn't believe that Kang Xiaoming would call him over just for this kind of bullshit. Give me shares? He didn't believe that Kang Ming Ming would give him any shares, unless the sun rose from the west. Ah, let's eat first. Kang Ming Ming laughed, then pretended as if nothing had happened. He said to Zhu Xiaozhang, go take a look. Why aren't the dishes being served yet? As they were talking, the waiter knocked on the door and came in with the dishes. Soon, the dishes were placed on the table. The speed here was quite good. Lenny didn't care about Kang Ming Ming, Zhu Xiaozhang, and Wang Shubing at all. He started eating when the dishes were served. He even put food in Tang Yun's bowl from time to time. Lenny didn't care about anything, but Tang Yun was a bit embarrassed. After all, she was a girl. She didn't have a good relationship with these people, so she was a bit shy. Xiaoming frowned as he watched Lenny gobble down the food without a care in the world. He wasn't happy, but he couldn't say it aloud. He was hoping that Lenny would be able to talk Xiaobo out of it, so he held it in for now. Xiaobo, I heard that the main product of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company is also a golden creation. Is it similar to our Dr. Kang's golden creation? Kang Ming Ming pretended as if nothing had happened and asked casually. Yes, Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine. Kang Xiaobo didn't know what Kang Ming Ming wanted to do, so he didn't say much. He answered whatever he asked. It wasn't a secret anyway, so there was no need to hide it. Oh, in terms of effect, it is similar to Dr. Kang's golden creation? Kang Ming Ming continued to ask. It should be, Kang Xiaobo said. If that's the case, I wonder where Miracle Dr. Guan's medicine company got their prescription from. Do you know? Kang Xiaoming finally revealed his purpose step by step. Kang Xiaobo wasn't stupid. After hearing Kang Ming Ming's words, he was a little angry. Kang Ming Ming was obviously hinting that Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine came from Kang Xiaobo. In an instant, Kang Xiaobo understood. Kang Ming's purpose of inviting him to dinner was probably to find out if he was the one who gave out Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine. But not only him, even his grandfather hadn't seen the injury medicine. How could he give it to someone else? So, Kang Xiaobo said coldly, how would I know? If you don't know then you don't know. Don't be angry. Kang Ming Ming saw that Kang Xiaobo was angry and quickly tried to calm him down. Why should I be angry? Kang Xiaobo said indifferently. He looked at Lenny to see what he had to say. But when he saw that Lenny was still eating happily, Kang Xiaobo felt relieved. Forget it, Xiaobo. Since we are all from the Kong family, let's not beat around the bush. Brother, can you get me a miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine? Kong Ming saw that Kong Xiaobo wasn't cooperating. His sweet words didn't have any effect on him. He was anxious and decided to say his purpose directly. Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine? What do you want it for? Kong Xiaobo was stunned. Don't you have Dr. Kang's golden creation medicine? Ah, just for reference. The more the better. Kong Ming smiled. How about it? As the vice president of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, you should be able to get this medicine, right? Of course, although we are all from the Kong family, as the saying goes, blood brothers should be fair. I won't let you do it for free. Shubin. At this time, Wang Shubing took out a black leather suitcase and placed it on the table. Then, he opened it. It was a suitcase full of cash. It was dazzling. The reason why Kong Ming didn't use a card but cash was because the visual impact of cash was far greater than a bank card. He wanted Kong Xiaobo to accept this suitcase of cash under the impulse of desire. What do you mean? Kong Xiaobo frowned. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't tempted by a suitcase of cash in front of him. But Kong Xiaobo was a man of principle. He wouldn't betray the company for a suitcase of cash. Not to mention, Linny was sitting next to him. Even if Linny wasn't here, he wouldn't accept the money. So he thought that Kong Ming used the wrong method. Chapter 864. Another scam. Kong Xiaobo was about to refuse, but Linny spoke first. 300,000, Xiaobo, take it. Since it's your cousin's goodwill, there's no reason for you to refuse. Linny stood up and took the money box in front of Kong Ming. Kong Ming was overjoyed. This Linny wasn't that annoying after all. He didn't come here to eat and drink for free. He was very useful at the crucial moment. He's greedy, but that's good. I like greedy people. With Linny by Kong Xiaobo's side, things will be much smoother. Yeah, the Lin brothers are right. There's no reason to refuse such a large sum of money. Kong Ming agreed with a smile. He didn't say the last part of the sentence, which was that he was taking someone's money to get rid of a disaster for them. Kong Xiaobo was stunned by Lin Yi's action. Why was Lin Yi asking him to take the money? Wasn't that the same as giving the prescription to Kong Ming? He looked at Lin Yi with uncertainty. He wanted to ask what was going on, but he was afraid that Lin Yi's plan would be ruined by him. Xiaobo, isn't it just a prescription? As the vice president of the company, you should have access to these core secrets. Why don't you just give the prescription to your cousin? Lin Yi gave Kong Xiaobo a look and continued, as for the source of the raw materials, I'm afraid it's not that easy to find out. But try your best. Yeah. Let's get the prescription first. Kong Ming didn't insist. As long as he got something first, he would have the evidence of Kong Xiaobo accepting bribes. Then, he could get any information he wanted. The prescription, of course. Lin Yi patted his chest and promised, right, Xiaobo? This, yes. Kong Xiaobo saw that Lin Yi had already agreed. How could he refuse? Although he didn't know what Lin Yi wanted, he could only cooperate with Lin Yi. Kong Ming didn't expect to achieve his goal so easily. He was elated. During dinner, he didn't talk much with Kong Xiaobo. He agreed that if Kong Xiaobo succeeded, he would call him directly. Kong Ming and the others left the restaurant. Kong Xiaobo, who was carrying a box of money, was still confused. Boss, what's the meaning of this? They want the prescription. Do we give it to them? Of course we have to. Otherwise, they would have wasted 300,000, Lin Yi smiled, but you don't have to steal it. I'll write one for you. As he spoke, Lin Yi took out the flyer he got from the restaurant and wrote a prescription for Kong Xiaobo in the blank space. I'll give it to you. Just call Kong Ming when the time comes. Huh? This is the real prescription? Kong Xiaobo was in disbelief. He knew a little about Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine. he heard that the prescription was different from Dr. Kang's. Not only did it lower the cost, but it was also more effective than Dr. Kang's. Linny gave the prescription to Kang Ming Ming. Didn't that mean he was giving away the benefits to others? Of course it's the real prescription. Linny nodded, but he smiled, but this prescription is Dr. Kang's golden creation medicine. Didn't he suspect that you know their prescription? That's perfect. We'll just use this prescription to fool them. Dr. Kang's golden creation medicine prescription? Boss, how do you have it? Kang Xiaobo was shocked. I've seen Dr. Kang's golden creation medicine before. It should be this old prescription, but a lot of the ingredients are expensive. The cost is too high, so I changed some of them. Not only did I save on the cost, but the effect was also stronger. Linny shrugged. Now we're just returning the old prescription to them. They already have a prescription for 300,000. Isn't that worth it? That's a good deal. Kang Xiaobo finally understood Lin Yi's intention. Boss, you're the best. You just casually scammed another 300,000 from Kang Ming Ming. That's so satisfying. Kang Xiaobo hated Kang Ming Ming. It wasn't just a day. If it wasn't for Lin Yi, he wouldn't have sat at the same table with Kang Ming Ming. He had been wondering why Lin Yi did this. Now he knew that Kang Ming was scammed by Lin Yi again. I wasn't planning on screwing him over, I just wanted to see what he was up to. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. But since he's giving us 300,000, there's no reason for us to reject it. That's true. I was scared to death. I thought he sold the prescription for 300,000. My heart almost exploded. Kang Xiaobo let out a sigh of relief. Boss, I'll give you the money. I'm going to the slums to pick up Xiaofan and bring her to the company. Recently, Kang Xiaobo went to the company to learn from Fatty Lai and Fatty Lai's friends. Although Kang Xiaobo had learned a lot of theoretical knowledge, it was just an armchair strategist without any practical application. So, Kang Xiaobo treasured this internship opportunity. Xiaofan was the same, but her legs weren't very convenient. So, she naturally walked with Kang Xiaobo every day. Xiaofan's house was demolished. Her mother rented a house near the new house. Once the house was renovated, she could move in. Take this money. Get a driver's license and buy a car. Otherwise, it'll be inconvenient for you to take care of Xiaofan every day. Use the rest of the money to buy some home appliances for Xiaofan? 300,000 was nothing to Lin Yi. Naturally, he wouldn't carry a suitcase of money back to school. How can I do that? Kang Xiaobo was shocked. He never thought that the money would be given to him. Although Lin Yi worked under him, Kang Xiaobo knew his own limits. He didn't think about the money. So, when he left, he proposed to return the money to Lin Yi. He just didn't expect Lin Yi to give the money to him. There's nothing wrong with it. Just take it. Lin Yi patted Kang Xiaobo's shoulder and waved his hand. Lin Yi was a person who could distinguish between kindness and hatred. He was good to his friends and bad to his enemies. Even if his enemies didn't provoke him, Lin Yi would beat them up whenever he had the chance. For example, just now, Kang Ming Ming lost 300,000 for no reason. Although Kang Xiaobo didn't help Lin Yi much, Lin Yi didn't care. When Zhong Pingliang came to his door, Kang Xiaobo's sacrifice was enough to make Lin Yi look at him in a different light. Friendship wasn't about taking things from each other. So, Lin Yi wouldn't ignore Kang Xiaobo just because he couldn't help him. Chapter 865. Cured, sick again. Jindajo spent money like water these days. He spent more than 10 million to treat Jining Jun at Yaowang's place. Although his crooked mouth, lame feet, and the diseases that were transferred to his hands and ears were also cured, Jining Jun's body had other diseases. Impotence. After Jining Jun's hands and ears were healed, Jindajo brought him to a massage center to celebrate his recovery. He wanted to wash away his bad luck, but during the massage, he ordered a prostitute out of interest. Sadly, he became a living eunuch. After taking a few Viagra, it didn't work. Jun panicked and couldn't care less. He stumbled to the door of his father's room next door. Jun called a prostitute. How could Jindajo just wait there like an idiot? He naturally ordered a prostitute as well. After entering the room, he was having fun when he suddenly heard a knock on the door. He jumped in fright and almost had a heart attack. This massage center was managed by Tsihua, and he was the one who introduced them to this place. It was said to be very safe, and he didn't expect to be disturbed. Jindajo put on a bathrobe and opened the door while cursing. "Who is it?" "Dad, it's me, I'm Jun." Jun knocked on the door anxiously. Jindajo was a little nervous when he thought it was the police or his enemies, but when he heard it was his son, Jun, he was enraged. "You little bastard, I can't get up now." "Knock my kidney, what's wrong?" "Huh?" Jun froze and said in fear, "Dad, you can't get it up too?" "No way. It's all because you scared me." Jindajo frowned and suddenly froze. "What? You can't get it up too?" "Yeah, Dad, I can't get it up, what should I do?" Jun's voice sounded like he was about to cry. "I've taken 3 Viagra but it's useless, it suddenly doesn't work." Jindajo jumped in fright and immediately lost the desire to play with Mississippi. His lust also dissipated. He quickly opened the door and let Jun in. He asked anxiously, "Really? What is going on?" "I know, but there's no reaction." Jun cried as if his father had just died. "Dad, am I crippled now?" Jindajo only had one son and he was counting on him to carry on the family line. Hearing Jun's words, a huge blister appeared on the corner of his mouth. "Don't worry, are you sure you have no reaction?" "Yeah, I'm sure." Jun nodded. "Look, I'm like this right now." Jun didn't care that there was a prostitute in the room. He took off his bathrobe and showed it to Jindajo. Jindajo was a little anxious. He pointed at the lady in the room and said, "Get out first. This is your money. Don't say anything about this." As he spoke, Jindajo gave the lady a bunch of money and sent her away. The lady knew that something big happened to Jun and his son and didn't dare to say anything. She took the money and quickly nodded before leaving the room. "Jun, when did this start? Were there any signs before?" Jindajo asked carefully. "No, Dad, you know that I've been sick for a while. I didn't touch any women, but when I came here today, I realized something was wrong." Jun said, "It was still working before. Before we came to Songshan, I went to look for my little lover." "So it happened after you got sick? Could there be any side effects?" Jindajo could only think of this possibility. "It's possible. Dad, let's go look for Zhao Yaowang. He's amazing at bringing people back to life. He must have a solution." Jun listened to his father's analysis and thought that it was possible. Other than Sequela, there was no other possibility. The two of them thought about it and quickly put on their clothes. They left the medical center and rushed to the floating cloud bar. In the floating cloud bar, Zhao Qibing looked at the money on the deposit receipt and was overjoyed. "Wow, I'm such a genius. I thought of such a genius idea. I didn't think that Jun, that idiot, would give me 10 million in just a few days. It's so easy to earn money." "Of course." Sihua flattered, "Master Bing's idea to earn money is the best. Of course, Yaowang's contribution is also a big part of it. I just helped. If it wasn't for Master Bing's idea to change the patient's condition again and again, I wouldn't be able to collect so much money from a patient no matter how good I am." Yaowang said humbly. Not bad. Yaowang, don't be so humble. You're the one who made the money this time. I'll tell my father." Zhao Qibing didn't want to take all the credit for himself. He was a person who was good at winning people's hearts and knew how to make people follow him wholeheartedly. Just like Zhong Fabai and the others, they were all loyal to him now. Zhao Qibing only needed to show them some kindness in exchange for a group of loyal subordinates. Why wouldn't he do it? He understood that even if Yaowang was the main contributor, House Xiao would know that he was the mastermind behind all of this. Yao Wang wouldn't take the credit away from him, the mastermind, no matter what. "Thank you, Master Bing," Yao Wang said gratefully. Yao Wang started learning medicine at the age of 3 and started to roam the world at the age of 15. Back then, he also played the trick of treating patients worse and worse. However, because he offended a rich family, he was caught and almost beaten to death. If it wasn't for the head of House Zhao, Zhao Guangyin, who saved him, there wouldn't be Yao Wang today. So, Yao Wang was very grateful to House Zhao. He felt that his life was given to him by House Zhao. No matter what House Zhao asked him to do, it was only natural. Master Bing was Zhao Guangyin's son, so naturally, he would support him with all his heart. He didn't ask for anything in return. He stayed in House Zhao with the intention to repay their kindness. Now that Zhao Qibing was going to teach him Qinggong, how could he not be touched? Although he didn't care about anything, he still hoped that House Zhao would value him. But, this father and son from House Shen are rich. 10 million, TSK, it's still a little too little. We haven't squeezed them to the limit yet. If we could squeeze more money out of them, that would be even better, Zhao Qibing said regretfully. Chapter 866. Framing Lin Yao? Really? But wouldn't he suspect something if we do that? Zhao Qibing wasn't stupid. Although he was greedy, he didn't want to ruin his reputation. We want long-term benefits, not Jiningjun's money. It'll be bad if they suspect that we did it. They won't, I did it discreetly. They don't have the intelligence to find out. Yao Wang waved his hand confidently. Besides, even if they go to the hospital, they won't be able to find anything. That's good, as long as we aren't involved, Zhao Qibing nodded in satisfaction. Of course not. Not only will they not implicate us, but they will also give us more money soon. Yao Wang sneered, Master Bing, watch me. Alright, I'll wait for that idiot Jiningjun to give me money. Zhao Qibing nodded happily. Yao Wang was right. Not long after, Su Jiaonang ran in, Master Bing, Jiningjun and his son are here again, they want to see Yao Wang. Let them in. Zhao Qibing couldn't wait anymore. The more he tasted money, the more he couldn't stop. Su Jiaonang quickly brought Zhendazhou and Jiningjun into the back room. As soon as they entered, Zhendazhou raged, Yao Wang, what kind of illness did you treat? Why is it getting worse? Why did you treat something that wasn't sick before? Although Zhendazhou was a boorish man, he was meticulous. He knew that it wasn't reliable to blame Jiningjun's illness on the sequelae, but in order to let Yao Wang treat his son and spend less money, he had no choice but to complain first. Zhendazhou, watch your words, is this a place for you to be arrogant? Even if this is your territory, you better behave yourself in front of me. Zhao Qibing frowned unhappily, but his heart was beating like a drum. Did Zhendazhou and Jiningjun find out something? Zhendazhou's face froze. Indeed, he was only thinking about Yao Wang and forgot that this was Zhao Qibing's territory. He didn't dare offend Zhao Qibing. It wouldn't be hard for the power behind Zhao Qibing to kill him. So, Dazhou's face turned into a smile. Master Bing, don't be angry. If you have something to say, then say it nicely. Don't think that just because you spent money to see the king pharmacist, you are a god. In my place, customers are not gods. Zhao Qibing curled his lips. Seeing that Dazhou didn't dare to act rashly, he calmed down and sneered, we don't accept normal people who want to see Yao Wang. Of course, of course. Dazhou didn't dare to say anything after seeing Zhao Qibing's attitude. He said with a bitter face, Master Bing, Yao Wang, please take a look at my son, didn't I cure Jiningjun's illness? What else are you looking at? Yao Wang pretended to be confused as he looked at Zhendazhou. No, he's still sick. Zhendazhou quickly said. You're sick. I can't tell. Your mouth and ears aren't crooked, your hands and legs are working. You're a handsome young man, what's wrong with you? Yao Wang looked at Jiningjun and said. No, it's not on the surface, it's a hidden illness. Zhendazhou quickly said, Ingjun can't get it up. can't get it up? Yao Wang froze. Xiao Qibing and Sihua also pretended to be surprised and opened their mouths wide. They looked at Jining Jun in disbelief. How can you not get it up? When did you find out that you can't get it up? Just now. Jining Jun said hurriedly, my dad and I went to the massage center under Sihua Bro's protection. I just wanted to take a hot shower to wash away my bad luck. Then I went to a prostitute and my lower body didn't have any reaction after taking 3 Viagra. Did you have this illness before? Yao Wang frowned and asked. No, I wouldn't be a prostitute if I had this illness. Jining Jun quickly shook his head. I can't offend Lenny for those 2 girls. If you're not sick, why did you take Viagra? Why did you take so many? Yao Wang sneered in his heart. You weren't sick before, but your kidneys are weak. Yao Wang had already checked it before. Jining Jun was embarrassed and laughed dryly. I just don't have much stamina. Yao Wang nodded and looked at Jining Jun carefully. All right, give me your hand, I'll check your pulse. Yes. Jining Jun quickly gave his hand to Yao Wang and Yao Wang pretended to check his pulse. In fact, Jining Jun's illness was caused by him and he didn't need to check his pulse at all. He was just pretending for the Jin father and son. After a while, Yao Wang's brows slowly locked together. He didn't say anything and only closed his eyes in silence. Did he have a serious illness that scared the Jin father and son? Jin Dazhou was counting on Jining Jun to carry on the family line. Now that he was disabled, what would he do in the future? Wouldn't he die without descendants? Jining Jun, on the other hand, didn't think so far ahead, but he was also scared. After all, he couldn't play with women anymore and his life would lose a lot of fun. You are not sick. After a while, Yao Wang spat out these 3 words. Not sick? Jin Dazhou and Jining Jun widened their eyes and looked at Yao Wang in disbelief. Jining Jun screamed, how can I not be sick? That's the truth. Yao Wang, if you don't believe me, I'll take off my pants for you to see. There's no need for that. Yao Wang waved his hand. I said you're not sick because you're not sick, but you said you're impotent. This is real. Oh? What do you mean? Jining Jun was confused. You're impotent. This isn't an illness, someone did something to you. Yao Wang sighed and looked at Jining Jun sympathetically. I didn't expect Lenny to be so evil. Not only did he make you sick on the surface, but he also made you a cripple in the dark. He's so evil. Huh? Lenny again? Jining Jun was furious when he heard that it was also Lenny's fault. Dad, this Lenny is too evil, I want to kill him. Dazhou was infuriated as well. He didn't think that Lenny would be this evil, leaving his son with such an illness. Ingjun, don't worry, I'll avenge you. Dazhou was furious as well. He didn't expect Lenny to be this evil. Chapter 867. The price was a little low. Xiao Qibing and Lenny had a grudge against each other. If he could transfer the grudge to Jin Dazhou and Jining Jun and let them deal with Lenny, why not? Yao Wang felt that this was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Master Bing would praise him again. Of course, we have to treat him first. Jining Jun quickly said, Yao Wang, can my illness be treated? Yes, but it's difficult. The king of medicine sighed. To me, the king of medicine, there is naturally no illness that cannot be cured, but the degree of difficulty is different. Previously, when I was treating you, I already wasted a lot of qi. Now, your illness is not small, and it also needs to use qi. Yao Wang, don't worry, I won't shortchange your medical fees. Just tell me how much you need. Jin Dazhou quickly said when he heard that his son could be saved. You have to ask Master Bing about this. If I use all my qi on you, then if other patients come, I won't be able to save them. At that time, the loss won't be just a little. Yao Wang said with some difficulty, how about this? I'll treat Ingjun after I recover my pure energy, how about that? That way, the medical fees will be cheaper. This. How long do I have to wait? Jin Dazhou didn't have much money left. He came to Songshan with 50 million to invest in the gambling boat, but before he even invested, he had to spend more than 10 million to treat his son's illness. From Yao Wang's tone, it seemed like treating his son's illness would cost a lot more than before. He hesitated. If he could wait for a while, why not wait if it was cheaper? 3 to 5 years, Yao Wang said indifferently. Huh? Jiningjun and Jindazhou froze and looked at each other. 3 to 5 years? Jindazhou thought that he would only have to wait for a few days, at most a month. Who knew that it would be 3 to 5 years? Wasn't that too long? Jiningjun couldn't wait any longer. If something went wrong or he couldn't find Yao Wang, wouldn't he be a eunuch for the rest of his life? Thinking of this, Jiningjun couldn't help but look at Jindazhou for help. Jindazhou also thought of this. How could he wait? If he waited any longer and something went wrong, then his Jin family would have no descendants. Jindazhou gritted his teeth and asked, Master Bing, the consultation fee is not a problem. As long as we can cure Ingjun's illness, money is not a problem. This. Master Bing hesitated and said awkwardly, Sigh, it's not that I don't want to treat you, but life has a price, and chi is priceless. Jindazhou only wanted to curse after hearing Master Bing's words. What kind of theory was this? Life was priceless, and chi was priceless. However, Jindazhou couldn't get angry. He could only hold back his anger and said, It's okay. Just say it. At least 30 million. Qibing said faintly. Huh? Jindazhou was dumbfounded when he heard the price. Although he expected the price to be high, he didn't expect it to be this high. 30 million. That was earned by Dong Hai bit by bit, and it was gone just like that? Master Bing, the price. Yao Wang heard the price and was in a difficult position. Jindazhou was overjoyed when he heard Yao Wang's words. It seemed that Yao Wang also felt that the price was a bit high and wanted to help him. Yao Wang was such a good person. Thus, he hurriedly echoed, Yes, this price is really a bit low. Yao Wang followed, My chi is priceless. Jindazhou almost vomited blood when he heard Yao Wang's words. So Yao Wang thought that the price was too low, not too high. Yet, he had foolishly agreed with them. He was truly foolish to the extreme. Oh? Jindazhou, you think so too? It seems like I'm really a kind person, asking for such a low price. Zhao Qibing shook his head in self-mockery. If that's the case, you can add more, that. Ha, I'm a bit short on money recently, 30 million it is. Jindazhou awkwardly agreed to the price. How could he dare to disagree? If he didn't, it might become 40 million soon. And 30 million it is. I've already said it. Yao Wang, this is the price, right? What do you think? Zhao Qibing looked at Yao Wang and asked. Okay, whatever Master Bing says, we'll do it. Yao Wang nodded. Thank you, Master Bing, I'll go prepare the money now. Jindazhou said, Ingjun and I will leave first, we'll come back when we have the money. Dad, why don't you prepare the money and I'll stay here for treatment? Jiningjun didn't understand why his father wanted him to leave with him. How can we do that? How can we let Yao Wang treat you without money? You're so stupid. Jindazhou glared at Jiningjun and said. Jiningjun had no choice but to follow his father out of the bar and asked curiously, Dad, why did you drag me out? It'll be better if you let me treat the illness first, it'll prevent more problems. We came in a hurry and thought it was a side effect, but it doesn't seem to be. So, I'm thinking, should we go to the hospital and have a look? What if the hospital can treat it too? Then we won't have to waste money, right? Jindazhou wasn't stupid and had some intelligence. You're right, I was too impatient. Jiningjun nodded, yeah, 30 million can be used for anything, but if it's used for treatment, it'll hurt my heart. The father and son discussed and stopped a taxi to go straight to the hospital. However, they went to the First People's Hospital, the male specialist hospital and so on. In the end, they couldn't find anything. The medicine king was right about his illness. He didn't have any illness, so what could the hospital find? This was all Yao Wang's doing. Whoever started the trouble should end it. How would others know how Yao Wang did it? After coming out of the hospital, the father and son completely believed Yao Wang's words. Qin Dazhou sighed. It seems like you really aren't sick, it's that Linny who did something to you. Even the big hospitals said that you aren't sick, it seems like only Yao Wang can treat you. Chapter 868. Revenging June. I can't let this Lenny go even if you don't say it. He made me lose 40 million. Do you think my money is so easily lost? This debt, I will definitely put it on Linny's head. Dazhou laughed coldly and said fiercely. He was also exasperated. Who was he, Jin Dazhou? When had he ever suffered such humiliation? Right, Dad, I heard that Mengyao's family's pretty rich, and Lin Yi's her bodyguard. Why don't we make a move on Mengyao and get her to pay us the money? Jining Jun immediately turned his attention to Mengyao. He more or less knew about Lin Yi from Zhao Qibing. Of course, Jining Jun didn't know that Zhao Qibing purposely leaked this information to him so that he could be cannon fodder. I know, I've already asked someone to investigate. Pengzhan Industries is very famous in the province. Dazhou, on the other hand, had his sights set on Pengzhan. He'd thought it through very well. If his son was in this state because of his daughter, then who else would pay for the medical fees? Not only did he have to pay for the medical fees, but he also had to give some compensation. Yes. Jining Jun heard that his father also wanted to cause trouble for Mengyao and he felt relieved, but, we must kill that Lin Yi. It won't be easy to kill Lin Yi. I heard that he is a master at the early phase of the mystic class and that Li Fu beside Pengzhan is also a master at the peak of the late phase of the golden class. It won't be easy for us to touch them. Jin Dazhou got some of the information from his investigation, but most of it came from Zhao Qibing. What's the use of those masters? Don't we have guns? No matter how strong he is, can he be invulnerable? Jining Jun said in disdain, Dad, where are your men who are doing business on the high seas? Tell them to come back and kill Lin Yi. Although the Jin family had some business in the East Sea, the most profitable business was the one that had no capital. The Jin family had a pirate group codenamed Firearm Team that specialized in robbing cargo ships on the high seas. Every year, it provided the Jin family with a large amount of wealth. Of course, this business didn't belong to the Jin family. With the Jin family's strength, they couldn't afford such a large business. This business was managed by Jin Dazhou on behalf of a distant relative. That distant relative took the majority, while Jin Dazhou only took 20%. Childish. You're going to call in a firearm team from the city and give Lin Yi a round of bullets? Wouldn't that be waiting for the police to destroy our Jin family? Jin Dazhou glared at Jining Jun and said angrily, although these cultivators are afraid of guns, a sneak attack with 1 or 2 guns won't be able to hit them because they are too fast. The only way to kill them is if a group of people fire at the same time and shoot randomly. But, unless there's no one around, if there's such a large-scale gunfight in the city, I'll be arrested as the leader of a terrorist organization tomorrow. I'm sorry, Dad, I didn't think it through. Jining Jun thought that having a firearm team was a great thing and he wasn't afraid of anything in this world. However, after hearing his father's words, he realized that he was taking it for granted. But your suggestion is good. I have a plan to deal with them. Jin Dazhou's eyes flashed with a hint of viciousness. Let's go, we'll go find Yao Wang first. Dad, how are you going to deal with them? Jining Jun was impatient. I'm going to ask for help from your 4th uncle and ask him to send his master to help. Jin Dazhou said. This 4th uncle was Jin Dazhou's business partner. 80% of the business on the sea belonged to him and Jin Dazhou was working for him. Oh? Ma Zhu who works for 4th uncle? Jining Jun quickly asked, I heard that he's also a mystic division master? Yes, when we were fighting for business on the sea, your 4th uncle sent him to help me. You didn't see how good he was. Jin Dazhou seemed to be recalling the events of the past. 1 kick, and one of them was kicked to death. Even his head was sent flying. Can he deal with Lin Yi? Jun didn't care much about cultivators and warriors. He always felt that they weren't as good as guns, but according to his father, they couldn't use guns on a large scale in the city. Of course he can. Jindajo said, he's a physical master in the middle phase of the Mystic Division. I heard from Zhao Qibing that Lin is only in the early phase of the Mystic Division. Of course he can deal with him. Jindajo didn't know the difference between physical and spiritual, but he felt that the middle phase of the Mystic Division was definitely stronger than the early phase of the Mystic Division. Then let him kill Lin directly? But that won't be enough. Jun felt that killing Lin directly was too easy on him. Of course we can't kill him directly. Dajo shook his head. What we need to do is to let Ma Zhu kidnap Meng Yao and Yushu. His opponent is only that Li Fu. As long as he defeats Li Fu, we'll be able to capture Meng Yao and Yushu. With the hostages, we can threaten Pingzhan to ransom them. Of course, we can ask Lin to deliver the ransom to a deserted place and let the firearms team shoot him to death. Great! Not only can we get a large sum of money, but we can also take revenge. Jininjuan's eyes lit up after hearing his father's words. All right, it's settled then, but I have to be cured first. Meng Yao and Yushu, I will definitely kill these two girls. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Jindajo laughed along with his son. A revenge plan was formed just like that. In the floating cloud bar, Zhao Qibing said unhappily, what is Jindajo doing with Jininjun? He doesn't want to be cured? Why aren't they back yet? No, I think Jindajo wants to take Jininjun to the hospital to confirm if he's sick or not. Yao Wang saw through Jindajo's intention. Oh? Would the hospital be able to tell? Qibing paused and asked. Master Bing, don't you trust me, Yao Wang? Don't worry, they'll be back soon. Yao Wang said, Master Bing, you'll definitely earn this money. Ha, then I'm relieved. Zhao Qibing nodded, that's fast, but there aren't many fat sheep like them. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to make money from real estate. Chapter 869. A good plan, of course. We have Lin to take the blame for us. What's there to be afraid of? Zhao Qibing waved his hand, but this time, we have to get a hidden illness that's hard to notice. It's best to let him notice it after a while. You're right. I understand, Master Bing, don't worry, Yao Wang nodded. I'll get him a disease that affects his eyesight and make his eyes blurry until he can't see anything. Of course, this will take around a year. Okay, let's do that. 1 year later, when House Shin has earned enough money, they'll send it to us. Wah! Zhao Qibing laughed excitedly. Just as Yao Wang predicted, Jindajo brought Jininjun back. They couldn't find anything wrong with their son in the hospital, so they could only come back to Zhao Qibing to be cheated. Master Bing, I've finally collected the money. When can we start the treatment? Jindajo said with a smile. He was now sure that only the king pharmacist could cure his son's illness. Actually, we could have started just now. You're our old customer, you don't have to pay first. Zhao Qibing said sarcastically. Ha, I was just thinking about it. Let's get the money together first. Jindajo didn't know if Zhao Qibing guessed the reason why he left and felt a little awkward. Shall we start now? Yao Wang nodded. Okay, let's start then. Follow Li Cihua to complete the transfer. I'll start treating your son now. Jindajo followed Cihua to complete the transfer while Yao Wang pretended to treat Jininjun. He held the silver needles in his left hand and pressed on Jininjun's pulse with his right hand. He transferred traces of pure energy into Jininjun's body, making Jininjun feel as if his entire body was heating up. The silver needles instantly covered Jininjun's body, turning him into a porcupine. However, Jininjun believed in Yao Wang's medical skills and wasn't afraid. In fact, Yao Wang only inserted one needle in the right spot, the other needles were just for show and didn't pierce into the acupoints at all. The last one was to destroy his vision. But Jininjun didn't know about it and thought that it was some kind of magic. The medicine king used his true qi to heat up his body, so he was sweating profusely. In the eyes of others, it looked like he had overexerted himself and was exhausted. Looking at the Medicine King who was sweating profusely, Jindajo sighed. It seemed that this 30 million was not easy to earn. How much Shinchi would be consumed? It's so hot, I'm dying. Jun was scalded by Yao Wang and his body turned red as if he was cooked. Jun, you have to persevere. Jindajo quickly encouraged his son, the process of treatment is naturally painful. I know, I will endure it. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle is extremely brave. Jun started to mutter some words of encouragement. Jun was tormented for more than an hour and Yao Wang didn't have it easy either. He was suffocating from the heat, but for the sake of the 30 million, he had to put on an act. He had to make Jindajo feel that the 30 million was worth it. Only then could he go out and advertise for him and show how amazing Yao Wang was. There's a reaction, there's a reaction. After a while, Jun suddenly realized that his lower body had a reaction. He shouted happily, Dad, I'm having a reaction. Oh? That's great. Jindajo walked over and was excited. Yao Wang is really a miracle worker. Even the doctors in the hospital said that there's no disease that can't be cured. Yao Wang's hands can cure the disease. That's right. Don't you know who Yao Wang is? Xiao Qibing said proudly, but in his heart, he was cursing Jindajo for being an idiot. This was Yao Wang's doing. If he couldn't cure it, who could? Phew. The Medicine King finally began to stop. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, All right, it has been cured. But this old man's physical strength is not up to it. I need to adjust my breathing. Yao Wang, you've worked hard. Jindajo saw how tired Yao Wang was and felt that the 30 million was worth it. Although he had treated Jinjuan's illness many times before, it was never this tiring. It seemed like his son's illness was really hard to cure. Yao Wang waved his hand and didn't say anything. He just sat there with his eyes closed and Jinjun jumped up in excitement. Dad, it's really working, it's really cured. That's good, that's good. Jindajo sighed in relief. Thank you, Master Bing and Yao Wang. You're welcome, I have to congratulate your son for regaining his manhood. Xiao Qibing laughed, but you spent the 30 million in vain. Why do you say that? Jindajo froze as he didn't expect Xiao Qibing to say that. If it wasn't for Meng Yao and Yushu, if it wasn't for Lin Yi helping them, would Jun have so many problems? Would you have suffered such a huge loss? Xiao Qibing started to convince Jindajo to go against Lin Yi. Yeah. This time, I won't let him go so easily. But, I still need your help, Master Bing. Help me investigate Pingzhan Industries. Jindajo felt that he was unfamiliar with this place and he needed to rely on the locals to do anything in Songshan. Zhou Tiandi had obviously distanced himself from him these days and Jindajo had heard about the grudge between Zhou Tiandi and Lin Yi. He laughed at Zhou Tiandi's cowardice and decided not to bother him anymore. That's not a problem, Xiao Qibing nodded generously. After all, we're old friends. I can help you with this, but how are you going to deal with Lin Yi? If it's convenient, can I give you some advice? Lin Yi and I are old enemies. Jindajo had heard about the grudge between Xiao Qibing and Lin Yi, so he dared to tell Xiao Qibing about his plan to deal with Lin Yi. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. He believed that Xiao Qibing wouldn't betray him. It's like this, I'm preparing to. Jindajo told Xiao Qibing his plan to deal with Lin Yi. Oh, that's a good plan, why didn't I think of it before? Xiao Qibing slapped the table and praised Jindajo's plan. First, kidnap Meng Yao and Yushu with a mystic class mid-phase master, then lure Lin Yi to a place with no one around and shoot randomly. Even if he doesn't die, he'll be heavily injured. Then, let the mystic class master kill Lin Yi. Brilliant. Chapter 870. The exact same prescription. What's wrong, Master Bing? You think this plan is feasible too? Dajo was overjoyed. He didn't expect his plan to be approved by Master Bing. It's doable, very doable. Qibing nodded and looked at Sihua. Sihua, what do you think? It's doable. Sihua nodded in agreement. Whatever information you need, I'll provide it to you. Thank you so much, Sihua bro. Dajo quickly thanked him. I'll go contact that master first. Wait. Yao Wang spoke again. Yao Wang, is there anything else? Dajo paused, but since it was Yao Wang who spoke, he didn't dare to be slow. He quickly stopped and turned back. Your illness today reminded me that although your son seems to be fine now, it's hard to say if Lin Yi has done anything else. You have to be careful. If anything goes wrong when you go back, don't be careless. Yao Wang started to give Dajo a heads up. What? There's more? Dajo was furious. Isn't this Lin Yi too wicked? There's more. It's just a guess, I can't be sure. After all, I only thought of it after what happened today, Yao Wang sighed. Then, Yao Wang, can you check Jun again? Dajo asked carefully. I can't find anything right now. How can I check when there's no illness? I can't check every part of your son's body, can I? If I do that, my pure energy will run out and I'll die. Yao Wang waved his hand and rejected Dajo's suggestion. I see. Dajo couldn't force it after hearing Yao Wang's words, but his heart felt like it was blocked. He was very unhappy, and his hatred for Lin Yi increased by another level. But don't worry, there's no illness that I, Yao Wang, can't cure. If there's any problem, come find me. Yao Wang comforted. That's the only way. Dajo had no choice but to leave with his son. After Dajo and his son left, Zhao Qibing sighed, what two idiots, I really hope they get lucky and kill Lin Yi again. Let them do whatever they want, we just need to focus on earning our own money. Sihua said. Master Bing, now that we have 40 million in our account, shouldn't we start building the orphanage? Oh, okay. Get ready. Take the king pharmacist to the orphanage and warn them. Tell them to move away, or I'll kill them. Qibing said arrogantly. Now that he had a guaranteed way to earn money, he was much more domineering. Master Bing, but I'm not good at fighting, right? Yao Wang's listless expression changed to one of high spirits. Don't worry, you just need to show the strength of a mystic class master. I don't think that the Dean, a golden class master, would dare to fight a mystic class master like you directly. Qibing said nonchalantly, you're not going to fight her, you're going to scare her. Don't worry, as long as she's not an idiot, she won't fight you. Okay. Yao Wang relaxed. Master Bing, I'll go take a shower first. I almost died from the heat, I'm sweating all over. 30 million isn't easy to earn. Ha! Zhao Qibing heard Yao Wang's words and smiled happily. Yao Wang, don't worry. No matter what, you're the main contributor, I'll remember it. Thank you, Master Bing. Yao Wang quickly cupped his hands in thanks. There was a Zhao Yao Wang in Songshan, and his miraculous hands were comparable to Hua Tuo's. The news spread from the Jin father and son, and with Sihua's purposely spreading rumors, Zhao Yao Wang's name quickly spread through the upper class of Songshan, and even many outsiders knew about him. However, because of Zhao Yao Wang's high fees, other than Jining Jun, who couldn't be cured by others, no one else was willing to spend so much money. So even though Zhao Yao Wang was famous, there weren't any patients. Kong Ming got the Yao Wang formula for Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine from Kong Xiaobo, and he was overjoyed. He didn't think that he'd get the formula so easily. If he'd known, he wouldn't have gone after Guan Xian. However, Kong Xiaobo's power was limited. It was easy to get the formula for the injury medicine, but it wouldn't be so easy to get the formula for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Kong Xiaobo's access was limited, after all. It seemed like he had to start from Guan Xuemin's side. Of course, this was a matter for the future. At least he had something to report now. Kong Ming happily returned to House Kong with the formula for Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine. Dr. Kong was quite satisfied with Kong Ming's achievements. After all, the formula for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing couldn't be rushed, and Kang Ming Ming getting the formula for Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine back was a great achievement. As expected. This formula is exactly the same as our House Kang's formula. Dr. Kang held the formula from Kang Ming Ming and was furious. It must be that bastard Kang Xiaobo who offered this formula to Guan Xuemin in exchange for the position of vice president. Greedy bastard, ruining House Kang's plans. Of course, Dr. Kang didn't doubt the authenticity of the formula. After all, the formula was in Dr. Kang's hands. Even Kang Guifeng and Kang Cuipu didn't know about it, let alone Kang Ming Ming. The only one who knew the formula was Kang Xiaolong, and Xiaolong wouldn't leak it out. He'd already decided that Xiaolong would be the future head of House Kang. Why would he betray his own interests? So this recipe had to be Xiaobo's handiwork. Yeah, he sold it to me for 300,000, so naturally he'd give it to Guan Xuemin for the position of vice president. Kang Ming Ming nodded in agreement. Humph. If that's the case, then don't blame me for being rude. Dr. Kang smiled coldly. Yes, Grandpa, we can't let them have it easy. Kang Ming Ming said. Chapter 871. Showering with them? So that's how it is. I was thinking that after their products hit the market, we could just buy a few boxes and slowly test them. Why would we need to spend so much money on a prescription? So it turns out that we want to give them a blow when their products hit the market. Kang Ming Ming nodded in realization. Xiaolong didn't explain it too clearly to him on the phone, and Kang Ming didn't really know what the recipe was for. Xiaolong, you go prepare for this, and make sure that Miracle Dr. Guan's company's reputation is ruined. Dr. Kang said to Xiaolong. Come up with a plan and show it to me. Yes, Grandpa. Xiaolong nodded and agreed. Scheming was his forte, and he had to make sure that Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company's reputation hit rock bottom. Not only would it affect his impression in front of Miracle Dr. Kang, but it was also because House Kang would be Xiaolong's House Kang in the future. He had to kill Guan Xuemin in the cradle. He couldn't let them take away his market share and position. Right, Grandpa, Guan Xian's already engaged. What should we do about this? Our previous plan won't work. She's engaged. How could she still be friends with me? Kang Ming Ming blamed his failure on Guan Xian's engagement, but House Kang didn't know the specifics, and they didn't doubt Kang Ming Ming's ability to pick up girls. That's our mistake. We didn't think that Guan Xian was already engaged, and now the recipe for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is going to be difficult. Dr. Kang frowned after hearing Kang Ming Ming's words. He knew that a girl like Guan Xian wouldn't be too intimate with another man after she was engaged, so their plan to steal the recipe was obviously not going to work. But Dr. Kang didn't want to give it up just like that. After all, this prescription could be the stepping stone for the Kang family to successfully become an aristocratic family. It could allow the Kang family's strength to rise to a higher level and reach a higher position. Yes, I didn't do my research properly and acted rashly. Thank goodness I didn't alert them, or it'd be even more troublesome. Kang Ming Ming wasn't stupid. He was afraid that his grandpa would blame him, so he admitted his mistake quickly. I've disappointed everyone. Grandpa, you can't blame Xiaoming for this. Xiaolong had to show his generosity as the leader of the third generation. Although it was true that Xiaoming didn't investigate the matter thoroughly, who would have thought that Guan Xian had an engagement? Xiaolong said. This isn't something that can be stopped with mere human strength. Xiaolong's right. Xiaolong is right. You don't need to belittle yourself, Xiaoming. You've already done very well. As for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, we'll think of something else. Dr. Kang said. Don't worry, Grandpa. I'll head back to Songshan if there's nothing else. I'll keep trying to find out more, but I'll have to rely on my family's support for the expenses. Kang Ming Ming was living a carefree life in Songshan, and he didn't have any supervision from his family. That's not a problem. I'll give you another $1 million for the expenses. Let me know if it's not enough. As long as we can get the recipe for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, it'll be worth it no matter how much money we spend. Miracle Dr. Khan said. Right, you'll have to work harder on the sourcing channel. If we get a hold of Shuamine's raw material sourcing channel, we'll seal it off completely. I'd like to see what they'll be able to sell in the future. What's the use of a recipe? Okay, I got it. Khan Xiaoming nodded and replied. Linny sat on the sofa, watching Pleasant Goat and Big Wolf with the Miss and Yushu. He didn't understand why the Miss and Yushu would like to watch kids' stuff at their age. But then again, it was understandable that they were a little childish since they'd been living together all day, not interacting much with the outside world. The night was boring, especially with Yushu and Mengyao watching TV. Linny didn't have anything to do, so he picked up the phone on the table and started playing games. He'd volunteered to watch TV with them just now, and it'd be a little embarrassing if he were to leave halfway through. Wouldn't that be a little too much of a disgrace? The Miss seemed to be someone who cared a lot about face. I'm going to shower. Linny wasn't interested in it at all, and when the show was finally over, he tossed his phone on the coffee table and stood up, preparing to take a shower in his room. I'm going to shower too. Mengyao stretched her body. What about you? Oh, I haven't finished my apple yet. I'll watch TV for a while. Yao sis, you go shower first. Yushu used the remote control to change the channel, her mouth stuffed with half an apple as she mumbled. Mengyao turned around and went upstairs. General Weiwu saw that the people in the living room had left, so it wagged its tail and went back to its place, under the stairs. Not long after Linny and Mengyao left, Lin Yi's phone rang, scaring Yushu. She picked it up and saw the name Tang Yun. She hesitated before picking it up. Hello? Hello? Tang Yun froze. Why was it a girl's voice? She subconsciously thought that she'd called the wrong number, but when she saw that it was indeed Lin Yi's name, she couldn't help but feel strange. You are? Isn't this Lin Yi's number? Yes, I'm Shu, the automated voice answering machine. What can I do for you? You can leave me a message, or I'll pass it on to Shield Bro. Yushu said. Tang Yun heard Yushu's voice and was speechless. Shu? Where's Lin Yi? Oh, Shield Bro and Yao sis are showering right now. Why are you looking for him? Yushu smiled mischievously. Shower? Lin Yi, and Meng Yao? Tang Yun heard Yushu's words and was taken aback. Why did Lin Yi and Meng Yao go to shower? Yeah, Yushu said. Together? Tang Yun didn't believe Yushu's words. This girl always talked nonsense. Who knew if she was telling the truth or not? Tang Yun's vigilance was high now, and normal people couldn't lie to her. Yeah, Yushu replied. Then why don't you go with him? Aren't you Lin Yi's mistress? Tang Yun asked. Chapter 872. Can you see through things? Tang Yun frowned. If Yushu had said that she had just finished showering or was about to shower, then Tang Yun wouldn't have believed her. But Yushu's explanation made Tang Yun a little uneasy. Alright, I won't talk to you anymore. I've said too much. If Yao sis finds out, I'll die a horrible death. Bye-bye. Yushu didn't wait for Tang Yun to reply and hung up the phone. Then, she started laughing. Tang Yun didn't get to ask what was going on before Yushu hung up. It made her feel a little uncomfortable. Lin Yi really went to shower with Meng Yao? Tang Yun had always felt that the relationship between Lin Yi, Meng Yao, and Yushu wasn't as simple as an employer and employee relationship. Perhaps nothing had happened now, but if this went on, something would happen sooner or later. But Tang Yun didn't want to think about it. She even thought optimistically that if Lin Yi really did have something going on with Meng Yao, it'd be fine as long as she didn't know about it. She didn't know what was going through her mind. Was it because she felt inferior, or was it because she was afraid of losing Lin Yi? Xiao Xiao's words were a lie, but it was a wake-up call for Tang Yun. Love didn't need a reason, and there was no such thing as being rich or poor, but there was always a difference between ideals and reality. Honestly speaking, Tang Yin herself felt that Meng Yao or Guan Xian might be a better match for Lin Yi, and she, on the other hand, had gotten together with Lin Yi by accident. She couldn't help Lin Yi at all no matter what he did, she'd always be a bystander, and she'd even drag him down with her. Once this feeling formed, it would take root and grow, making Tang Yin worry more and more. She didn't want to ask Lin Yi anything, and she didn't dare to. Yushu's words were 80% fake, but sometimes, knowing that it was fake still made her worried. Tang Yin picked up her phone and hesitated for a long while before dialing a number in the contact book. Do. After the call connected, it rang many times, but no one answered. Tang Yin silently pressed the hang-up button and put the phone aside. She fell onto the bed, hugging the pillow in her arms as she stared at the wall in a daze. After a while, Tang Yin's phone beeped. It was a text notification. Tang Yin was spacing out when she received a text. She looked at her phone and saw that it was a text from Meng Yao. I was taking a shower just now. What's the matter? Tang Yin was shocked. Was Meng Yao really taking a shower? Tang Yin felt as if her heart had been broken into pieces at this moment. It hurt a little. But then she thought about it. If Meng Yao really was showering with Lin Yi, then why would she tell her? How good would it be to hide it from him? But Tang Yin couldn't see Meng Yao's expression, so she didn't know if this message was a show of force. The tone of the message was calm, and she couldn't see any emotions in it. This was the Miss style. Tang Yin wanted to make a call to confirm, but she didn't dare. She was afraid that her guess would become reality if she called. But she couldn't be at ease if she didn't call. After a long time of hesitation, Tang Yin sighed and put the phone aside. She buried her head in the blanket, tears falling down her cheeks. Meng Yao sent a text to Tang Yin, but Tang Yin didn't reply for a long time. She found it strange, so she called Tang Yin back. After all, the three of them had a good relationship. Meng Yao shook her head when she heard the sound of the phone being turned off. Maybe Tang Yin's phone was out of battery, or maybe she called the wrong number. She didn't think too much about it, so she put the phone aside and dried her hair with a towel. It was a quiet night, and Lin Yi realized that he left his phone in the living room the next morning. He looked at his phone and saw no missed calls, so he didn't think too much about it and went to prepare breakfast for the Miss and Yushu. Fauber came to pick up the Miss and Yushu, and Lin Yi drove Yushu's beetle to the hospital to pick up Tang Yin. Tang Yin stood at the entrance of the hospital, feeling nervous. She didn't know if Lin Yi would come to pick her up like usual, and she didn't know if she would ask Lin Yi about what happened yesterday. So she didn't even eat breakfast, and spent the whole morning in anxiety. But the moment Tang Yin saw Lin Yi, all the unhappiness disappeared. Seeing the smile on Lin Yi's face, Tang Yin smiled as well. He still loved her, so why didn't she believe him? Why did she have to worry about something that could happen, but was bound to happen? Tang Yin shook her head and quickly ran to Lin Yi with her bag. Why are your eyes red? Didn't you sleep well last night? Lin Yi opened the car door for Tang Yin and looked at her strangely. Lin Yi was a part-time doctor, and he was good at observing people. I hit a mosquito in the middle of the night. Tang Yin lied. She couldn't tell Lin Yi that she cried until midnight, could she? That would be too embarrassing. Although Lin Yi thought that Tang Yin was lying to him, Lin Yi didn't want to get to the bottom of it if Tang Yin didn't want to tell him. What do you want to eat? Tang Yin heard Lin Yi's question, and she couldn't help but be surprised. What do you want to eat? Breakfast. You don't want to eat? Lin Yi smiled. I already ate. Tang Yin wanted to say that she already ate, but looked at Lin Yi's half-smiling eyes and looked down. How do you know that I didn't eat breakfast? Since Lin Yi said that, naturally, he had his reasons, so Tang Yin didn't deny it. Usually, Lin Yi wouldn't ask her this question, and after picking her up, he would go straight to school. I'm a doctor, I can see through your body, Lin Yi said. You can see through things? Tang Yin looked at Lin Yi's eyes and blushed. That's not true. Lin Yi shook his head. I'm just giving an example. You didn't eat anything, and I can see it from your complexion. This is the look, listen, question, and feel of traditional Chinese medicine. It's the look, listen, ask, and feel, oh. Tang Yin thought that Lin Yi could see through things, and she was shocked. Although she would show it to him sooner or later, it would feel weird if someone could see through things. Let's go eat something first. Lin Yi started the car and started looking for a breakfast stall on the street. I don't think so. We'll be late for school. Tang Yin was worried. Chapter 873. No one answered. Tang Yin was speechless, but a question came to her mind. Right, Mr. Wang, why does he look like he's scared of you? This was something Tang Yin couldn't understand. She used to think that Lin Yi was some rich young master, and that Jifeng didn't dare offend him. But now that Lin Yi's identity was revealed, he was just Meng Yao's bodyguard. Why would Wang Jifeng be scared of him? He wouldn't even give face to the nephew of the school board, Zhong Pingliang, right? Ah. I caught him hitting on a girl in school. Lin Yi didn't hide it. Ah. Tang Yin's eyes went wide. Hitting on a girl? Him? In school? I think it was his lover. One of the teachers in school. Lin Yi shrugged. I just happened to see it, and he felt guilty. I see. Tang Yin didn't know what to say. It was because of this that Wang Jifeng dared to hit on her in school. She wondered if she should thank Wang Jifeng for that. If Lin Yi hadn't caught him, Lin Yi wouldn't have dared to do that. Let's go eat first. Lin Yi stopped the car in front of a breakfast shop and pulled Tang Yin out of the car. Yao Yao, the school ran out of red ink. Should we buy another bottle? Yushu asked Meng Yao as if she had thought of something all of a sudden. Oh? Let's get one then. Meng Yao nodded before turning to Faubert. Faubert, there's a culture store nearby. Please stop the car. We want to buy a bottle of red ink. Okay, Miss Chu. Faubert nodded. There were a lot of exams in grade 12. There was a big exam every 3 days and a small exam every 2 days. However, most of the exams were graded by the students. This was because the teachers didn't have much free time to grade the papers. So, they messed up the papers and distributed them to the students. The teachers explained the answers to each question. Meng Yao's papers had been graded by Lin Yi before, but the two weren't that close back then. Red ink was a necessity in 12th grade, and since Yushu said they were out of red ink, Meng Yao naturally had to buy another. Faubert parked the car in front of a culture store, and Meng Yao and Yushu went to buy the red ink. Faubert was about to start the car when 2 black Land Rovers blocked Faubert's Bentley, stopping him from moving. Faubert was startled, and his guard went up. The 2 Land Rovers were obviously doing this on purpose, otherwise they wouldn't have stopped like this. Miss Chu, be careful, contact Mr. Lin. Years of experience told Faubert that there was a hint of danger. As expected, the doors of the 2 Land Rovers opened in an instant, and a tall man in white came out of the Land Rover in front, while 2 men in black came out of the Land Rover behind. Each of them had their right hand on their belt, and after getting out of the car, they stood on the left and right sides of the Bentley. Uncle Fu locked the carriage door and took a deep breath. The 2 black-clothed men in the back were nothing to be afraid of, but the white-clothed man in the front made Uncle Fu feel an unprecedented pressure. However, the man in white didn't seem to care about the locked car door at all. He reached for the door, and with a bang, the door was pulled down by the man in white. One had to know that the doors of a Bentley were extraordinarily sturdy, especially Pingzhan's car, which was made to be bulletproof. Who would have thought that the man in white would be able to destroy it so easily? Faubert's expression froze. As expected, the man in white didn't come with good intentions, and he must be a practitioner, at least above the middle phase of the golden class. The door was pulled down by the man in white, and naturally, Faubert couldn't sit in the car anymore. For a master like him, doing so was equivalent to waiting for death. This man was a huge threat to him, and he couldn't protect Meng Yao even if he wanted to. Faubert had no choice but to get out of the car, hoping that he could buy some time for Meng Yao and Yushu to call Lin Yi. However, since the front door was opened by the man in white, the two men in black easily unlocked the door from the front, and opened the back door directly. They took out two black guns from their waists, one for each of them, and pointed them at Meng Yao and Yushu. "Hand over the phone." The man in black glared at Meng Yao and Yushu coldly. "Okay." Yushu handed over the phone obediently. She knew that she shouldn't fight when the odds were against her, and she didn't say anything, knowing that these two were not joking around. Meng Yao was about to call Lenny, but it seemed like she couldn't do it anymore. She handed the phone to the man in black helplessly, but she dialed Lenny's number and didn't hang up. The man in black took Meng Yao's phone, looked at it, and quickly hung up. He turned off the phone and looked at Meng Yao coldly. "Don't think you're so smart. Get out of the car and get into the car at the back." Lenny was having breakfast with Tang Yun when he received Meng Yao's call. The Mrs. phone rang twice, and before Lenny could pick it up, the other side hung up. This surprised Lenny, and he called back, only to hear that the phone was turned off. Was there no electricity? Lenny didn't think much about it. After all, Meng Yao was sent to school by Faubert every day. Lenny didn't have to worry about it. "What's wrong?" Tang Yun asked when she saw that Lenny didn't get through. "It's nothing." The miss just called, and hung up after a couple of rings. "I called back, but her phone was turned off." Lenny shrugged. "Maybe it's out of battery." "Oh." Tang Yun pouted when she heard that it was the miss, and she didn't say anything else. She was a little disappointed. "What's wrong?" Lenny saw that Tang Yun seemed to be depressed, so he asked. "It's nothing." Tang Yun shook her head. "Did something happen to the miss? Why don't you call Yushu?" Lenny thought about it, and it made sense. If he couldn't get through to Meng Yao's phone, then he would call Yushu. He dialed Yushu's number, but Yushu's phone was turned off as well. Lenny frowned, and he felt that something was wrong. It was possible that Meng Yao's phone ran out of battery, but how could both Meng Yao and Yushu's phones run out of battery? There was no signal on the road from the villa to school, so it couldn't be caused by a lack of signal. Chapter 874. Unscathed. Faubert's phone was on the dashboard of the Bentley, and Faubert couldn't pick it up when he heard it ringing. The white-clothed man was giving him a lot of pressure, and he didn't dare move recklessly. "Who are you people? Why do you want to capture Miss Chu and Shu?" Faubert looked at the white-clothed man and asked. Although he was staring at the white-clothed man, his eyes were focused on the two men in black, Meng Yao and Yushu. "Stand here obediently and wait for us to leave. I won't hurt you." The white-clothed man didn't answer Faubert's question. Instead, he spoke arrogantly. Faubert frowned. There was no point in asking since the man didn't want to say anything. The only thing Faubert needed to do now was to stop these people from taking Meng Yao and Yushu away. So he had to deal with the white-clothed man first. The two men in black didn't pose much of a threat to Faubert. They were just two normal people with slightly stronger bodies. It would be a piece of cake to deal with them. And so, Faubert moved. He raised his right hand and sent a palm towards the white-clothed man. It was a feint, however. He wanted to force the white-clothed man back and turn around to save Meng Yao and Yushu. Faubert didn't know the strength of the white-clothed man at the moment, and he didn't want to fight him head-on. As long as he could force the white-clothed man back, it would save him some time. He watched as the two men in black forced Meng Yao and Yushu into the rover behind him, and Li Fu calculated the time he'd be able to take care of the two men in black as soon as he could after the white man backed off, steal the rover, and drive away. But, as the saying goes, a person's plan can never be overpowered. Faubert thought that he would be able to force the white-clothed man back with one palm, but he didn't think that the white-clothed man wouldn't dodge at all. Instead, a cold, mocking smile flashed across his face. This smile made Faubert's heart tighten. He had already realized that something was wrong. If this white-robed man's strength didn't far surpass his and had already reached the point of ignoring his palm, then he was a fool who didn't know what the consequences of this palm would be. Of course, Faubert did not think that this man in white was a fool. He did not believe that this man in white would not investigate his strength before doing this. Bang! Faubert's palm landed solidly on the white-robed man's body. Faubert practiced external martial arts, so how domineering was this palm? Even the recoil made Faubert's palms numb, but the man in white seemed to be completely fine as he looked at Faubert indifferently. Finished? Does it feel good? The white-clothed man looked at Uncle Fu in ridicule. Bang! So loud. Faubert was not in the mood to joke around with the white-clothed man. His heart was filled with shock. With this palm, even if the opponent was a mystic class master, there was no way he would be unscathed, right? Even if he wasn't heavily injured, he would definitely be sent flying. But this white-clothed man was completely fine, and he was even talking and laughing. This person, just how strong was he? Could it be that he had surpassed the mystic class? But, it was impossible, right? Earth class masters, in this common world, were almost extinct. You are from House U? This was the only possibility that Faubert could think of. The only people he had offended recently were House U. Faubert did not think that this man in front of him was sent by Zhao Qibing. If House Xiao was willing to send out masters, they wouldn't have waited until now. If they wanted to send, they would have done it long ago, and Lin Yi wouldn't have destroyed their building twice. House U? You have enmity with House U? The white-clothed man smiled faintly. It seems that you have quite a lot of enemies. But unfortunately, I am not one. Then you are. Faubert knew that he was definitely going to die today. Li Fu, right? A physical master with the strength of the peak of the late phase of the golden class. The white-clothed man looked at Faubert and said faintly. You are still not my opponent, but it is impolite not to reciprocate. I gave you a chance, I told you to wait for us to leave, but you didn't listen, so you can die now. As the white-clothed man spoke, he quickly raised his hand and slapped Faubert's chest. Faubert didn't even have time to dodge, and he was sent flying. Fast, it was too fast. Faubert felt that his chest had been smashed by the white-clothed man, and the intense pain made Faubert realize the strength of this person. The peak of the middle phase of the mystic class. But there was one thing that Faubert couldn't understand. Even if the opponent was a peak of the mid-phase of the mystic class, how could he be unscathed from his attack? Faubert's body landed heavily on the ground, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Faubert knew that he probably couldn't make it. A palm from a peak of the mid-phase of the mystic class wasn't something that a peak of the late phase of the golden class like him could take. If the opponent had the intention to kill him, how could he survive? You? How? How are you unscathed? Faubert clutched his chest and looked at the unscathed man in shock. Faubert! Miss cried. She saw with her own eyes how Faubert was sent flying by the white-clothed man, and he fell to the ground and spat out blood. Yushu was also shocked, and she looked at the scene in front of her dumbly. She didn't know what to do. These two girls had never experienced something like this before. Even when they met the robbers in the bank, it wasn't this bloody because they had Lin Yi's protection. Shut up. The black-clothed man heard Meng Yao scream, and he took out a towel and waved it in front of Meng Yao and Yushu, and the two fainted immediately. Drive. He ordered the driver after making Meng Yao and Yushu unconscious. Not waiting for Master Ma. The driver asked. Master Jun said that Master Ma will go by himself, and we will go first. The black-clothed man said. Okay. The driver nodded and started the car, and the Land Rover quickly left the scene, disappearing from the intersection in the blink of an eye. Faubert looked at the Land Rover in despair, and he spat out a mouthful of turbid air. He looked at the white-clothed man with blurred eyes. He couldn't hold on any longer. Do you know why I left you alive? The white-clothed man lowered his head and looked at Faubert with a condescending gaze, and said coldly, I will let you die knowing that I'm here to answer your questions. Faubert didn't say anything, and he didn't want to waste his breath. He just hoped that Lin Yi would find out as soon as possible and save Meng Yao and Yushu. My name is Ma Zhu, and I've cultivated the Golden Bell Shield. I've already broken through the 8th level, and I'm invulnerable. The man in white said proudly, killing you is like killing an ant. Ha ha ha. Chapter 875. News from Lingshan. The whole process didn't even take 10 minutes. Faubert felt his mind getting blurry as he listened to Ma Zhu's laughter. The police siren sounded, and the police car and ambulance arrived at the same time. One had to admit that their response speed was quite fast, but Ma Zhu was just a little faster. The owner of the store called the police, and he was shocked by the scene just now. He didn't hear the conversation between Ma Zhu and Faubert, but Ma Zhu sending Faubert flying with one slap was like watching a movie to a normal person. It was unbelievable. Organs and ribs were shattered, and there was basically no hope. This was the conclusion of the paramedics, and they couldn't send him to the hospital in time. They could only do emergency treatment in the ambulance. Lingshan was the second to arrive. The ones who'd been dispatched were the patrol officers, but seeing that it was a vicious kidnapping and assault case, they'd immediately notified the criminal police. How is it? Lingshan got out of the car and ran over quickly. Captain Song, it was the owner of the store who called the police. He's the witness, and according to his testimony, the whole case is a kidnapping case. One of the patrol officers reported to Lingshan immediately, giving her the details of the case. Did you find out the identity of the hostage and the injured? Lingshan asked after listening to the case. According to the license plate number left at the scene, the Bentley belongs to Pingzhan Industries, and the driver, the injured one, is the driver of the chairman of Pingzhan Industries, Li Fu. According to his identity, the hostage should be Meng Yao and Yushu, the patrol officer said. What? Meng Yao and Yushu? Lingshan's eyes widened. Of course, what surprised her wasn't the identity of the hostage, but the injured Li Fu. She knew that Li Fu was Pingzhan's driver and bodyguard, and Li Fu's strength was recorded by the police. He was a late-phase golden class peak physical practitioner, so how could he be so heavily injured that he couldn't even hold on anymore? What kind of strength did the kidnapper have? And according to the witness, the owner of the store was the one who sent Faubert flying with one palm. That person was at least a mystic class master. When did such a powerful master come to Songshan? Why did he kidnap Meng Yao and Yushu? But, Lin Yi was Meng Yao and Yushu's bodyguard, so the first person Lingshan thought of was Lin Yi. She had to inform Lin Yi about this as soon as possible, even if she didn't have a good impression of Meng Yao and Yushu. These two girls were always going against her, but that was business, and that was personal. Lingshan was very clear about that. And so, Lingshan sent Lu Wanli to notify Pingzhan while she called Lin Yi. When Lin Yi contacted Faubert and realized that no one picked up the phone, he felt even more uneasy. Miss and Zhu's phones were both turned off, and Faubert wasn't picking up either. What did this mean? It meant that something must have happened to the three of them. Faubert isn't picking up either. Lin Yi frowned and said to Tang Yun. You. Hurry up and go take a look. Don't let anything happen. Tang Yun hesitated and said. Then take your breakfast and eat in the car. Lin Yi was also very worried about Meng Yao's safety. In theory, with Faubert there, nothing could happen to Meng Yao, but there was always an accident. What if another master like Yu Kun came? Don't worry about me, I won't go. I'll go to school myself after eating. Tang Yun shook her head. She knew that now wasn't the time to be jealous. If something really happened to Meng Yao and Yushu, she would be a hindrance to Lin Yi if she followed him. So, Tang Yun didn't want to cause trouble. Okay. Lin Yi smiled at Tang Yun. He was very grateful for her understanding and held her hand. Be careful. What do I have to be careful about? Just be careful. Tang Yun would be fine if she went to school alone, but she was worried that something might happen to Lin Yi. I'll be careful. Lin Yi nodded and walked out of the breakfast shop quickly. He drove to the road from the villa to school. He wanted to find Meng Yao and Yushu along this road. Lin Yi's phone rang not long after the car left the area. Lin Yi looked at the caller ID. It was Ling Shan. Hello? What's the matter? Lin Yi was worried about Meng Yao and Yushu's safety, so he didn't have the mood to talk to Ling Shan. Lin Yi, Meng Yao and Yushu are in trouble. They've been kidnapped, and Li Fu is heavily injured. He's in the emergency room now, but I'm afraid that he's in trouble. Ling Shan didn't mind Lin Yi's tone. She was used to Lin Yi's tone. As expected. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. Something had happened. He didn't think that Ling Shan would respond this quickly. She was probably at the scene already. It had only been 10 minutes since Meng Yao's call. Where are you now? I'll be there immediately. Have you notified Uncle Chu? Lin Yi asked. I've already notified Chairman Chu, Ling Shan said. I'm at the Judian Circuit, in front of the Mingliang Culture Shop. You'll see it when you get there. There's a lot of police cars there, and they've set up a cordon. All right, I'll be there immediately. Lin Yi hung up and accelerated the car to the max. There were a lot of cars on the road in the morning, but Lin Yi used the Beetle's small size and skillful driving skills to weave through the traffic like a beetle. Lin Yi didn't slow down at all, going on the bus lane, going on the wrong lane, going on the sidewalk. Under the condition that his safety was guaranteed, Lin Yi had broken all the traffic rules he could. But Lin Yi didn't care about that anymore. Pengzhan would pay the fine later. Meng Yao and Yushu's safety was his #1 priority. Of course, other than that, Lin Yi was worried about Faubert the most. After all, the Miss and Shu's situation could be delayed, but Faubert's injuries couldn't be delayed. Lin Yi wanted to drive the car like it was a plane. Finally, Lin Yi arrived at the Judian Circuit within 5 minutes. A few police cars with flashing lights were parked on the side of the road. A group of police officers had set up a cordon to prevent pedestrians from getting close. Lin Yi quickly drove the car over, parked it next to the police line, and got out of the car. Chapter 876. Chapter 0875, Faubert's injuries. Ling Shan told me to come. Lin Yi said to the officer. He took out his phone to call Ling Shan when he saw Lu Wanli not far away. Lu Wanli. Lin Yi called out immediately. The officer saw that Lin Yi not only knew Ling Shan's name, but he also knew Lu Wanli. It was obvious that Ling Shan had asked him to come, and so he didn't stop him. Seeing Lu Wanli walk over, the officer went back to his own business. Lin Yi, you're here. Captain Song is over there. Lu Wanli pointed at a direction not far away. Where's Faubert? Bring me there. Lin Yi wasn't in a rush to find Ling Shan. He was worried about Faubert's injuries. Ling Shan said that Faubert was heavily injured, and that he might not make it. This made Lin Yi a little worried, or else he wouldn't be driving so fast. Over here. Lu Wanli saw that Lin Yi was in such a rush, and his expression turned serious as well. He wasn't angry at Lin Yi's commanding tone, because he knew that Lin Yi was probably involved in the big cases that the police had cracked recently. Plus, Lin Yi and Ling Shan's relationship was very strange, and Lu Wanli had pretty much treated Lin Yi as Ling Shan's boyfriend. Lin Yi saw Faubert on the stretcher, and his face darkened. From the outside, Faubert's condition didn't look too good. Leave this place to me, everyone go back and rest. Lin Yi walked over and said to the medical staff who were busy with the work. The medical staff didn't know who Lin Yi was, and they looked at Lin Yi curiously when they heard him, but they didn't leave. You guys go back. He can handle it here. Lu Wanli knew that Lin Yi wasn't simple, so he spoke up to help Lin Yi. I'm sorry, officer. It's our duty to save lives and help the injured. We can't leave until we receive orders from our superiors. A leading medic walked over and said to Lu Wanli. Are you from the First People's Hospital or the Second People's Hospital? I'll talk to your dean. Lin Yi was anxious. It wasn't that Lin Yi didn't trust these medical staff, but they couldn't save Faubert at all. First People's Hospital. The medic didn't hide anything. He wasn't sure of Lin Yi's identity, but he couldn't leave without his superior's order. Lin Yi quickly dialed Guan Xuemin's number and told him what had happened. He then asked for the medical staff's number. When the nurse heard that Lin Yi was calling Guan Xuemin, she was stunned and asked, "May I ask if you're calling Guan Xuemin?" "Yes." "Do you know him?" Lin Yi was delighted and asked, "Which doctor in Songshan doesn't know Professor Guan?" The doctor said, "Are you someone recommended by Professor Guan?" Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief. He directly passed the phone to the medical staff and said, "I'm Guan Xuemin's disciple. Leave this to me. Elder Guan will explain to you." The medical staff picked up the phone and nodded after hearing Guan Xuemin's words. Guan Xuemin told him that Lin Yi was his disciple. Leave this to Lin Yi and he would immediately call Dean Qin. The medical staff was relieved after hearing Guan Xuemin's words. Not long after hanging up the phone, the dean called. "Dean Qin, hello. I'm Xiao Lu." The medical staff quickly picked up the phone. Okay, I understand. We will definitely cooperate with Dr. Lin Yi." Dean Qin called and told him to try his best to fulfill Lin Yi's request and help Lin Yi save the patient. With the dean's words, Xiao Lu naturally didn't have to worry about anything. Lin Yi bent down and checked on Faubert's injuries. He couldn't help but take a deep breath. Indeed, Faubert was still alive. However, it wasn't because the opponent wasn't strong enough to kill Faubert. The opponent did it on purpose to leave Faubert alive. Judging from Fu Bo's injuries, the other party should have only used one move. In other words, the other party's strength was far greater than Fu Bo's. So, if the other party wanted to take Fu Bo's life, it should be a piece of cake. However, the opponent didn't do it because he didn't want Faubert to die. He probably said a few words to Faubert after he used the move. However, the most likely reason was to let Lin Yi heal Faubert's injuries. This would cause Lin Yi's strength to drop by a level. To save or not to save? Lin Yi hesitated for a moment. Emotionally speaking, Faubert treated him well. Ever since he came to Songshan, Faubert had always been kind to him and treated him like a member of the mansion. Therefore, Lin Yi didn't want anything to happen to Faubert. However, logically speaking, Lin Yi knew that using his energy to heal Faubert wasn't a smart move. The opponent had a master. If he used his energy to heal Faubert, then his strength would definitely be affected. If that happened, he might not even be able to save Meng Yao and Yushu. Although the energy could be easily obtained from the Jade Space, it still needed time. Lin Yi didn't know if he could make it in time. Lin Yi gritted his teeth. He had to save Faubert first. At least before there was news of Meng Yao and Yushu, he couldn't leave them to die. A few silver needles appeared in Lin Yi's hands. He quickly inserted them into a few acupoints on Faubert's body. He then started the art of dragon mastery. This time, it was similar to when he healed Lu Buojia. Lin Yi used the silver needles to seal a few of Faubert's meridians. Lin Yi planned to use his energy to prolong Faubert's life first, but he didn't plan to directly heal him. Because Lin Yi knew very well how terrifying the amount of energy needed to heal a person who was on the verge of death was. He was afraid that after he healed Faubert, he would enter automatic sleep mode. Doing this now was undoubtedly very dangerous. Right now, Lin Yi could only use a small portion of his energy to prolong Faubert's life. As long as he stayed alive, Lin Yi would have time to heal him after everything was over. But whether or not Faubert's martial arts could be preserved was another matter. A physical practitioner with such a serious injury was probably completely crippled. Although Lin Yi could use his energy to create a golden-class dog, he couldn't use it to create a golden-class master. The amount of energy required for a human and a dog was worlds apart. Creating a golden-class dog would force Lin Yi into hibernation mode, let alone a golden-class master. If it were possible, Xiao Xiao would have been a golden-class master a long time ago. Chapter 877. The Target Fu. Lenny breathed out in relief. Faubert's life was safe. Whether or not he could recover his strength wasn't something Lenny cared about. This was all Lenny could do. Even so, Lenny was sweating profusely. He'd used up quite a bit of energy. After all, that palm strike was enough to take Faubert's life. Lenny hadn't healed Faubert completely, but that was only the body and bones. Lenny had to use his energy to repair the organs, otherwise any damage to any organ would be enough to take Faubert's life. If it weren't for Faubert's extraordinary physique, a normal person wouldn't be able to hold on until now. Lenny wiped the sweat off his forehead and raised his head to see Lingshan and Pingzhan already there, looking at him anxiously. Lingshan had seen Lenny heal before, and after she arrived, she sent everyone around Lenny away, sending Lu Wangli and his platoon to protect Lenny, preventing anyone from disturbing Lenny. How is it? Pingzhan's face was very serious, his eyebrows furrowed. He was worried about his daughter's safety, but he was also worried about Faubert's injuries. His life is safe, but I can't say if he'll be able to recover his strength. After all, Faubert is a physical practitioner, and his body was damaged to this extent. Lenny shrugged. His energy could only restore the damaged parts to their original state, as if he'd been reborn, but he couldn't make Faubert's body and bones return to their original state. That was something that could only be achieved after a long period of training, and it wasn't something that Lenny's energy could change. It wasn't like the chi of a spiritual practitioner, which could be replenished through energy conversion. This was the biggest difference between a spiritual practitioner and a physical practitioner. Once the meridians of an inner force expert were destroyed, the true chi in their body would not be able to be preserved, and they would become a cripple. On the other hand, once a physical expert's body suffered a serious injury, even if he healed, his body would not be able to return to its previous state. He would basically be no different from a normal person. It's fine as long as you're alive. Pingzhan let out a sigh of relief. It didn't matter if Faubert could recover his strength or not, as long as he could survive. Pingzhan and Faubert may be master and servant in name, but they'd been together for so many years. Humans weren't plants or trees, so how could they be emotionless? The relationship between him and Faubert was more or less that of an old friend. Even if he had to go bankrupt, he'd still want Faubert to live. How are Yao Yao and Shu? Any news? Lin Yi's face was a little pale. Healing Faubert had obviously used up a lot of his stamina, and he wasn't suited for battle in this state. However, the situation was urgent, and he couldn't afford to rest. The two Aurora SUVs that the kidnappers drove were all fake, and they used the license plate of a car rental company in Donghai. After checking through the POS machine, the original car model was a Honda CR-V, and we can't confirm the identity of the kidnappers at the moment. Lu Wangli told him what he had found out from the investigation. The kidnappers are very cunning. They should have a strong anti-tracking ability. Only a few cameras on the main roads captured the two cars. After that, they disappeared. There are two possibilities. One is that the kidnappers changed cars, and the other is that the kidnappers intentionally avoided some cameras when they arrived at their destination. Pingzhan nodded and sighed softly. He didn't even know who his opponent was this time, and he was completely at his wit's end. After hearing Lu Wangli's words, he couldn't help but turn to look at Lin Yi, hoping that he could give him an idea. Uncle Chu, since the kidnappers kidnapped Yao Yao and Shu, they must have a purpose. I believe that they will contact us first. Lin Yi sighed and said, if the kidnappers didn't want to use Yao Yao and Shu for some purpose, they wouldn't have kidnapped them. If it was just a grudge, then they would have been killed on the spot like Faubert. Yeah. But they're both girls. Pingzhan actually thought of the same thing. Since the kidnappers kidnapped his daughter and Shu, they must be trying to use them for some purpose, but he was afraid that the kidnappers would be tempted. Instead of being troubled here, why don't we go back and wait for the kidnappers' call? Lin Yi suggested. He needed to continue sleeping for a while to replenish his stamina. Otherwise, even if there was news of the kidnappers, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to fight them. Okay. Pingzhan was no longer the high-spirited chairman of a company, but an anxious father. He didn't have any ideas, but since Lin Yi suggested to go back and wait, there was nothing else he could do. Ling Shan didn't stop him because she knew that if Lin Yi couldn't solve the problem, there was no point for her to be anxious. Since Lin Yi wanted to go back, then let him go. As for Faubert, Lin Yi didn't send him to the hospital. Instead, he asked Lu to send him to the villa. Lin Yi had Faubert's injuries under control. As long as Faubert didn't get injured again, his condition wouldn't worsen. At this moment, only Lin Yi, Pengzhan, and Faubert were left in the villa, along with General Weiwu, the golden-class dog. Are we just going to wait for the kidnappers to contact us? Pengzhan looked at his watch anxiously. It had been more than an hour, and the kidnappers hadn't called yet. It made him restless. Other than that, I can't think of any better ideas. Lin Yi sighed as well. The most important thing is that I need to rest. I used up quite a bit of qi to control Uncle Fu's injuries, and I'm afraid that this is a trap set up by the enemy, leaving Uncle Fu alive on purpose to exhaust my strength. Lin Yi sighed as well. Pengzhan's face stiffened when he heard Lin Yi's words. He didn't think so much before, but after hearing what Lin Yi said, he felt that it was very possible. He quickly said, Go rest, I'll wait for the kidnapper's call. No need, it's fine on the sofa. Lin Yi said and closed his eyes, entering into a state of fake sleep. Lin Yi didn't sleep soundly. After entering the jade space, he still knew what was happening outside. Although Lin Yi entered the jade space and tried his best to absorb the energy in the space, his brain didn't rest at all. He kept guessing who the kidnappers were. According to the sequence of events, Lin Yi locked onto two people. One was House Yu's Yukuan, and the other was Jining Jun. Chapter 878. The kidnappers demands with House Yu's style of doing things, they should be here for revenge. Why did they kidnap Meng Yao and Yushu? After killing Faubert, they should be here for him. However, the kidnappers didn't do that. So, Lin Yi thought for a long time and crossed out the possibility of House Yu, leaving only Jining Jun. Although Lin Yi didn't know Jining Jun's background, if Jining Jun could really find such a master to help him, he might be able to do what he did. Firstly, although Jining Jun had a grudge against him, the grudge wasn't with him but with Meng Yao and Yushu. Meng Yao and Yushu were the ones who made him lose face in the billiard room. Although he helped them secretly, Jining Jun didn't know that. After that, at the door of the billiard room, although he was the one who punished him, the one who asked him to punish him was Yushu. So, if the kidnappers were Jining Jun's men, everything would be explained. However, Lin Yi felt uneasy when he thought that the kidnappers were Jining Jun. Jining Jun had been drooling over Meng Yao and Yushu for a long time. Would he do anything to them after this kidnapping? Lu Wangli's deduction was correct. The kidnappers had changed their car in a secluded place. Two identical Land Rovers on the road was simply too eye-catching, and it would easily attract the attention of the police. So, in an empty alley, the man in black and Ma Zhu brought Meng Yao and Yushu to an old Toyota Previa that had been prepared. Previa was also called the Tyrant. It was an early model of business car and there were a lot of them in the market. After changing the car, the group of people didn't stand out and looked very ordinary. As for the two Land Rovers, the people who had contacted them quickly removed the fake license plates and replaced them with real license plates. Each person took one and drove off in two different directions. This way, no one would suspect them anymore. After getting in the car, one of the men in black called Jining Jun, "Master Jun, the hostages are in our hands. We changed cars safely." "Oh? That's great. Good job, I'll call Pengzhan right now." Jining Jun danced happily when he heard that the plan went smoothly. "Oh right, how's Master Ma?" "Old Ma has already followed your instructions and didn't completely kill Li Fu. If Lin Yi wants to save him, he will have to expend a large amount of true qi. At that time, his strength will definitely be weakened and he won't be a threat anymore," the man in black reported. "Good, that's great. Come quickly, I can't wait anymore." Jining Jun nodded. Previously, in order to successfully kill Lin Yi, he purposely told Ma Zhu not to kill Faubert and to leave him alive. Isn't Lin Yi a doctor? If he wanted Faubert to live, he would need to expend a large amount of true qi. This was the plan that Jiningjun thought of when Yao Wang treated him. If he used Faubert's injuries to hold Lin Yi back and make Lin Yi use up a large amount of true qi, then no matter how skilled he was, he wouldn't be a match for Ma Zhu and the firearms team. A medical expert would need to use up a large amount of qi to heal someone. This was also proven by Ma Zhu, which was why the previous scene happened. Otherwise, Ma Zhu wouldn't need to tell Uncle Fu so many times that he kept him alive just to clear up his doubts. This was just to confuse Faubert and make him not know his real purpose. Otherwise, Ma Zhu wouldn't have the time to waste with Faubert. Chu Pengjian sat on the sofa and waited for the kidnapper's call. However, he felt restless and couldn't calm down at all. Chu Pengjian glanced at Lin Yi, who was resting with his eyes closed, and stood up abruptly. He felt that he had to do something, but after standing up, he didn't know what to do. Although Lin Yi was resting with his eyes closed, he wasn't idling around. He was thinking of a plan in his mind. Jiningjun's actions had already touched Lin Yi's bottom line. He was thinking that if the kidnappers didn't call after he recovered his strength, then Lin Yi would go straight to House Shen and dig them out, even if he had to dig 3 feet into the ground. Just when Chu Pengjian stood up, the phone in his pocket suddenly rang. Chu Pengjian quickly took it out and looked at the caller ID. It was a hidden number with all the numbers 0. "Hello, I'm Chu Pengjian." Chu Pengjian was very sure that the caller was the kidnappers. After all, normal people didn't need to hide their numbers when they called. "Hello, Mr. Chu. It's my pleasure to meet you." There was a piercing voice on the other side of the phone. It was obvious that the voice had been changed by a voice changer. The fake politeness made Chu Pengjian even more uncomfortable. "Who are you? What's the matter?" Chu Pengjian frowned and asked. "Who I am isn't important. What's important is that you want to know the whereabouts of your daughter and her best friend. I'm an insider." Wah! The person on the phone was unscrupulous and fearless. "My daughter and Shu were kidnapped by you. What do you want?" Chu Pengjian was completely sure of the identity of the caller. It must be the kidnappers. However, this made Chu Pengjian feel a little more at ease. As long as the kidnappers were willing to contact him, it was a good thing. Chu Pengjian wasn't afraid that the kidnappers would give him some conditions. He was afraid that the kidnappers wouldn't accept the conditions and would take his daughter away silently. "Mr. Chu, you're wrong. What do you mean I kidnapped them?" "I'm just an insider," the person said shamelessly. "I only heard that Mr. Chu offered a reward of 200 million to anyone who can provide information. Is that true?" Pengjian was infuriated by the caller. What the hell was this guy trying to do? He wanted a ransom, but he said it was a bounty. Yes. But Chu Pengjian knew that he shouldn't anger the kidnappers. He could only nod and say, "That's right. You want 200 million? I can give it to you. But you must guarantee the safety of my daughter and Shu. If they are harmed, I won't give you the money." Chapter 879. Another 50 million indeed. Zhen Dazhou had investigated Pengjian Industries and Pengjian's personal assets, and the amount he was asking for was within the limits of what Pengjian could accept. He only wanted cash, not shares or real estate, since he couldn't sell them at all. Wouldn't he be waiting for the police to catch him? He wasn't an idiot. "Mr. Chu, I'm just a good Samaritan, and I can only guarantee that your daughter and her best friend come back alive. As for whether or not they get hurt, that's not my concern. That's what the kidnappers do." The caller said shamelessly, not afraid of Pengjian's threat at all. Pengjian's heart froze. He was afraid that his daughter and Shu would be harmed by the kidnappers, and it was highly likely that they would do that. Pengjian gripped the phone tightly, his body trembling. "How can I not hurt Yao Yao and Shu? I can give you however much you want. Oh? It seems like you don't want to work with me anymore, Mr. Chu? The caller changed the topic with a cold smile. All right then, just wait to collect your daughter's and her best friend's bodies, wait. Pengzhan sighed. It seemed like his daughter and Shu coming back alive was already a blessing, and he couldn't care less about the humiliation. It wasn't something his daughter and Shu wanted, and it was fine as long as they didn't make it public. It was better than dying. Oh? Did you change your mind again, Mr. Chu? The caller seemed to know that Pengzhan would change his mind and continue the conversation. All right, I promise you, but please don't hurt them. If possible, I'll think of a way to give you another 50 million as compensation. Pengzhan said. Pengzhan, am a man of my word. You can ask around in the business world about my trustworthiness. I'm a man of my word, I hope you can trust me. Naturally, I know about your trustworthiness, but this isn't up to me. The caller said faintly. Go get the money now, I'll call you later and tell you how to pay. No problem, I'll prepare it as soon as possible. Pengzhan said. Don't call the police, or your daughter will die a horrible death. The caller reminded Pengzhan. Pengzhan smiled coldly inwardly. Weren't you supposed to be a good Samaritan? I'm not allowed to call the police again? Did he finally give himself away? But Pengzhan, naturally, wouldn't say what he was thinking. He didn't want to provoke the criminal. Don't worry, it won't happen. In actuality, Pengzhan didn't plan on calling the police. There was obviously a master on the other side, and the police's involvement would only anger them. Even if they managed to save his daughter in the end, they might not be able to stop the master. What would they do in the future? This would definitely provoke these people to retaliate even more crazily. The next time, it wouldn't be as simple as kidnapping. Perhaps he would be directly killed like Faubert. Lin Yi's phone rang not long after Pengzhan hung up. Lin Yi had been training in the Jade space, but he could still hear the conversation between Pengzhan and the kidnappers. He didn't say anything, however, because he wanted to make the most of every second he had to recover his strength. Now that his phone was ringing, Lin Yi could only return to reality from the training space. He picked up the phone, thinking that it was also the kidnappers, but it was Lingshan's number. Hello? Any news? Lin Yi asked. We've already monitored Mr. Pengzhan's phone, and we've heard the call from the kidnappers, but we didn't manage to locate them. The call came from a foreign IP phone server. Lingshan said, a little regretful. Do you need us to do anything? Not at the moment, I can handle it myself. They obviously have a master, and you're not their match. Lin Yi rejected Lingshan's help. Lingshan wasn't too happy with the words "you're not his opponent," but she understood that she really wasn't his opponent. She and Faubert were evenly matched. One was a late-phase golden class spiritual practitioner, and the other was a late-phase golden class peak physical practitioner. If they really fought, they should be evenly matched. But the kidnappers could injure Faubert with one palm. Lingshan would probably end up the same if she went. Then, be careful. Miss Dummy is cheering for you. Lingshan didn't know why, but she was a little worried. He pressured her so much, and she was actually worried for him. Lingshan didn't understand her own thoughts either. Okay. Lin Yi hung up. The reason why Songshan was called Songshan was because there were many mountains nearby. Other than Xuanyan Mountain that was developed into a tourist attraction, some of the steeper mountains weren't developed. Normally, no one would go up there. Among these steep mountains, there was one called South Mirror Mountain. Of course, this was a common name given to the mountain by the locals. As for the geographical name of the mountain, almost no one could say for sure. Even the name of this mountain might not be on the map. The reason why South Mirror Mountain was called South Mirror Mountain was because it was located to the south of Songshan. The name Mirror meant that the mountain was very steep and full of rocks. After the rain, it was as smooth as a mirror. In short, there was nothing on the mountain, and normal people wouldn't go up there. Today, there were 2 cars parked at the foot of the mountain. One was a Benz with a Donghai license plate, and the other was a Toyota Previa. On the mountain, Jiningjun just called Pengzhan with a voice changer. He hesitated for a moment. Originally, he wanted to ask Pengzhan for 200 million, play with his daughter in Yushu, and then kill Lin Yi. That would be the end of the debt. However, when he said that Pengzhan would give him another 50 million, he was tempted. That was 50 million. He only spent 40 million on the doctor, and Pengzhan added another 50 million. The condition was that he couldn't hurt Meng Yao and Yushu. Jiningjun would be lying if he said that he wasn't tempted. He was really tempted. What kind of concept was 50 million? 10,000 was enough to find a prostitute, let alone 50 million. It was too much for him to play with Meng Yao and Yushu. You're tuning into the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.